Good evening, everyone. Today is the 26th of June, and this is the regular meeting for the Rockport Planning Board. My name is Jeffrey LeClaire, and I'm the chairman of this board. This board consists of up to 7 Rockport resident volunteers appointed by the Select Board to review land use applications, changes to zoning, and conduct other duties prescribed in the ordinances of the town and laws of the state related to town planning. So we have enough members tonight for a quorum, so I'm calling this meeting to order at 5:31 p.m. So tonight's agenda consists of the following items: a subdivision review of a minor subdivision application, final application for 1113 Commercial Street, tax map 2, lot 157. Also a subdivision review, major subdivision, final application for a parcel at a non-addressed lot, tax map 27, lot 163-001. And then also findings of facts for a site plan review we did last month, and some land use ordinance amendment work after that, and that's it. So with that, are there any adjustments anyone would like to make to the order in which we review these things? Any additional items? So the first item that we like to take at this meeting is the call for the public to comment on anything non-agenda related, nothing that's on our agenda tonight, but they may wish to speak on. I'd welcome anyone from the public to come to the desk here, state your name, you live in the town of Rockport, and limit your comments to 3 minutes if you don't mind.
Hi, my name is Mary O'Rear. Is this close enough?
It's close enough for me. Is it close
Okay.
enough for Jeff?
My name is Mary O'Rear, and I was coming here tonight to be upset about a situation where businesses that moved in and had property next to them didn't have to care about how those abutting properties were kept. However, this afternoon, in preparation for this meeting, I thought, let me take a look at this ordinance thing one more time, and I noticed it was actually signed most recently on November 5th, which was my birthday, and I took a closer look at it, and I found out that you have made the changes that I wished you would have made. So I'm here to thank you personally for doing it. I think it was a long time coming, because I've been battling this for a long time. I hold Orion personally responsible for this, and I say a hearty thank you, because I've stormed the town office many, many times on this, and I'm sure you, Orion, were behind the changes, so thank you very much. I have one quick question. If the business that I am now abutting were to sell that building and leave, and a new business came in, would that new business be grandfathered?
Without getting into a lot of the detail and without understanding exactly what the application is, generally what's allowed is the use. So if the use is going to change, then there's some additional permitting reviews. And generally, if they're going to make certain changes, they have to comply with the new ordinance, yes.
Okay, great.
But there are some caveats. So there are some grandfathering clauses. So I can't guarantee anything.
Okay.
but
I
have
will
to
hope
word it
for a
carefully.
dental office. How's that? Okay, thank you very much. I really
Mary,
appreciate
if you
it.
wouldn't remind the folks
who
of
I
what
am.
what the issue was. Just, I think it was in the record of the documents for this meeting, but your email.
Well, I had
notice-
lived in a house that was one house back from Route 90, and there was a nice house in front of me right along Route 90. I'd lived there many years, and somebody came to my door and said she wanted to sell the house to a business, and would I sign, because I had to sign off on it. And I was very naive, and I said, oh, absolutely. You know, it's a free country. Business wants to move in there, fine. Well, it was a construction company. And that construction company had all the equipment and all the manpower to deforest the buffer between us, and then not do anything about shielding my view of anything. So that was my issue.
Okay.
And now there is language in the ordinances that would protect me under those circumstances going forward. So thanks again, I really appreciate it. I can drop this issue.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Any other issues, non-agenda related, that anyone from the public would like to speak on? All right, hearing none, I'll close that section. The next agenda item we have is to approve meeting minutes from last month's meeting. The first thing I will say is I did not have time to review these minutes. I'm seeing someone else shake their head. We had other things reviewing this month. It's not a pressing matter, so I would say we defer that review to next month, if members don't mind.
I have an unrelated question.
Please.
Do we not have a select board liaison tonight?
No, he's not available
He
tonight.
said that he was not, but I will try to reach out with Ryan and that person, John Beeman, to discuss what we did tonight.
Okay,
Also, I think the video will be available for him shortly after this meeting concludes.
right.
But thank you for that question. So, okay, let's pass on agenda item 3 and move on to agenda item 4, which is subdivision for 1,113 Commercial Street. And so if the applicants would please come to the table. This is the second time they're appearing before us with a final application for a minor subdivision for tax map 2 lot 157 and represented by Chuck Campbell of Chuck Campbell Architect PLLC, and the owner of the property himself is here as well. So first, I'd like to allow you to present this. I know we've heard it, but for the public and for the record, to present it. Then we'll have clarifying questions, just clarification only, and then open it up to public comment, and then we'll do our deliberations. So thank you for coming.
You are. Thank you for listening to us. If you remember, when we came back last time, we was gonna add 4 units, which made it a major subdivision, but we have cut it back to only adding 2 units. So that means 4 units total, so that allows us to go under minor subdivision, which reduces some of the requirements from DOT. We don't need a new entrance permit. We don't need the stormwater that DOT was requiring to give us a new entrance permit. So again, we have reduced it, cut it back to just 2 residential units that we're adding. And what we're gonna do is the roof water we're gonna collect and put into a rain garden. So that, again, it's like a retention pond, so we don't have lots of runoff. The actual impervious area that we're adding is, I can't remember what the numbers are, I have them on the plan, it's very minimal. And with that being so minimal, I have asked for a couple waivers, which is permitted by the ordinance for, yeah, let me not work from memory. The stormwater management plan, because we're not in the watershed of a great pond, and the impervious area is less than 5% of the overall subdivision. That was one of the waivers. The second waiver was Article 6, Section D, because the project is not in the watershed of a great pond. And again, best management practices will be followed during construction. Article 12, Section 6 requires subdivision utilities to be underground. We're asking for a waiver on this, as we're just adding a single duplex. Everything else in the area is overhead. I understand the requirement if you're putting in a new subdivision, putting in infrastructure to require that all to be underground. But with what we have, I think it would be appropriate. And then Article 13, the performance guarantees, we're asking for a waiver on that as well, as, again, we're not putting in any infrastructure, we're just building a duplex. I guess that's just a quick rundown. I'm sure you have tons of questions.
So, clarifying questions only from the board, anything that you needed clarifying on? Should also ask the board if anyone has a conflict of interest that would prevent them from rendering fair judgment on this. No one had one last time, so I'm assuming no. Hearing none, thank you. Okay, hearing no clarifying questions, I'll open the floor to public comment, so you guys can retreat for a moment, allow the public to come up.
I'm sorry,
Sorry, go ahead.
right now, there's a house that has an overhead connection to it, and then there's it looks like a mobile home, but
Mobile home, yes.
it doesn't show an overhead connection from that same pole running to it. How is the utilities run up to that?
To be honest, I did not investigate how the power gets to that mobile home,
Okay,
so I guess I can't honestly answer that.
interesting. All right, so, there's not, you didn't notice a second connection coming off of that pole going to any place other than the house currently?
Like I said, I didn't, great big assumption, I shouldn't assume, I understand that. There was an overhead going to the house.
Yep.
I assumed there was an overhead going to the mobile home. I guess it's always conceivably possible that they're running off the house, though I can't imagine that.
Again, either, I just, like, if you made that assumption, you didn't show it on your drawing, so I didn't know if you had different,
Well, Sam, there's Orion, you're controlling the screen, right?
Yes.
Can you go back one sheet? Okay, see those two red lines? Are those not overhead power lines? One going to the,
Yeah, that's
There
the
they
survey, and the survey shows,
yeah,
okay, so the
Yeah.
lower one with your plan, like, so that was my piece, we're trying to understand if you were gonna take that other one off of the pole and use it to move to the new dwelling and then bury something to the part, or not, and that
No,
was what I was,
no,
so.
right.
We're adding a third to that same
yes,
pole, got it,
yes.
thank you.
No,
That's
you're very
clarifying.
welcome. We will retreat.
okay, well, unless we have like a mic that we can use, or, we don't have a separate podium, so.
No, that's fine, I can move.
No, I mean, don't want to make that type of dance. Do you want to help out? Or should
As long as we don't have to move that, but yeah.
Yeah. so we don't need that. Any members of the public would like to take the mic for this? We'll have a use for that mic again. No one? Okay.
I have a presentation, so.
For this?
Oh, no, not for this?
Okay. Okay. Hearing none, I'll close the public comment period. Go ahead.
Got an email about it?
There was one public comment that was received, that's in the record, which we can comment on. We don't usually present all public comments, but we did receive a letter. Okay, thank you, and now we'll begin deliberations on this. So what we're looking at is a minor subdivision, so we consult the minor subdivision ordinance. I'll note that in section 6.1 of the subdivision ordinance, it states that we can sort of at our discretion, look at the articles from the items from Article 11 of the subdivision ordinance and apply them if we see fit. So I'll include that as part of your review. You've already addressed most of those.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I think we can just go through your points, really. Let me just open this ordinance.
We tried to be thorough, but we don't always.
Yes, thank you. No, I appreciate it. And for any other applicants, you phrase it in the same format that it's in the ordinance. It makes it a lot easier for us. Okay, so we do have a plan. Do we have a name for this plan? Do we have to have a name for this plan?
They're calling it Chelsea Market Realty LLC.
That's the owner's
Yeah.
name. I know for a major subdivision, it has to have a name. I'm not sure if this one does.
I can't imagine you need one
Minor subdivision?
for 4 units.
I know, yeah. Yep, proposed name, identifying title, and the name of the municipality in which it's located. So I assume Chelsea Market Realty LLC will not be the name of the subdivision. It's not typically a limited liability corporation, so it has to have a name. I don't know how one names these things, but that's part of the requirements, which is in section 6.3D1. I think we did verify right, title, or interest in the property last time, so I'm confident in that. We have the boundary survey was included in this package, shows the meets and bounds. Copy of the deed was included. Deed restrictions, I don't think there were, other than what's in the deed. Sewage disposal was described, municipal. Water supply was described. We do we have written statements from fire, water, and,
Yes, and
Public
those
Works.
were last minute, but they were all uploaded. No one had any concerns.
okay. The date, yes. The names and addresses of the owner, yes. Location of mines, gravel pits, fresh wetlands, none. Acreage shown. Streams and rivers and brooks. Contour lines are shown. Zoning district is known. Sewers shown. Widths of streets. Not really. Open space to be preserved. There's no open space being preserved.
No.
Yeah. Sorry, what was it?
Is it possible to turn up the volume on your?
I can try to speak louder. I'm really just ticking through our ordinance, but I'll try to speak louder. Thank you. No portion of this is in a flood-prone area.
No.
Yep. I'll address one of the, I think we skipped over the land areas, but one of the comments received from the public was whether this captured the proper amount of open space or lot coverage was allowed. And I think there was an assertion in there that, I don't know, I've heard a couple times now saying that if land is undevelopable, it doesn't count as lot, that counts towards the lot coverage open space. And I don't know where that's coming from, but my reading of our ordinance is that it doesn't make distinction of whether a land is developable. So if it's wetland, it's still your property, and it's still considered lot. Is that right?
Based on our ordinance, that is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Is it from other ordinance that people are getting this impression? 'Cause
No,
I'd like to know
it's,
where
it's,
it's
it's,
coming from.
where I've found some discrepancies with other surveyors is around wetlands. So if there's a wetland on it, there's a debate back and forth. We have an opinion and there's another opinion elsewhere. So
Okay,
the opinion in my office and with the code office is that your lot is your lot and your lot coverage is your lot coverage.
okay. Chuck, is that your interpretation as well?
Yes.
Okay,
Well, I agree, you know, that there are certain times where there is wetlands, that some ordinances don't allow you to count the wetland. We don't have any wetland.
right, you don't need wetland, right. Even when that is the case with the Rockport ordinance, I'm not sure that that even comes into effect either. So I think for all land
Yeah.
within a lot boundary, my interpretation is that it all qualifies as lot, and your lot coverage is based on that as the denominator. Yes.
Right, right.
Okay, were there other issues raised in that, that letter?
That's an enforcement issue, exploding, and then seemed like the last one was a seeming shift in what the planning board's intentions are, but I think that is addressed by the fact that we have LD 2003. So we do have to act differently than previous planning boards when
Right.
it comes to housing.
Okay, back to our ordinance. You've allowed for 2 parking spaces per unit, is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. A hydrogeologic assessment, I know you were waiving that last time, so you're waiving it here.
Right, right.
There's not more than 40 parking spaces, and no traffic study is required. When you said best practices for erosion management, what do you mean by that? Is there anything in your application that describes what that would be?
On my detail sheet, I have details of what
Right.
what they're gonna use for silt fence for
Right.
for the runoff.
Okay, so that's the best practices you're referring to?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. I was wondering if there was something else, because I did see that detail.
Yeah,
and I was like,
yeah.
I think that's what you meant.
No, I have seen some that have written half a book.
Right.
And I did not do that.
Yep, okay. Areas where they're adjacent to proposed subdivision have been identified for wildlife habitats? No. No great pond, as you said, so no phosphorus control. Contour lines have shown, there are no internal roads, so to speak. Will there be, I'm on 29, just for the rest of the board, will there be removal of land, of soils from the property?
There may be, but if there is, there won't be much.
Okay. And so the disposal of that will be limited, and you have a location for it?
No.
Okay. Are you bringing any fill in? I don't think so.
There, again, more than likely there'll be some surface material being brought in for loam and seed.
Loam and seed.
Obviously, when we dig for the foundation, there's probably going to be a little more fill there than what we need. There may not be.
Okay.
Depends on how quick they hit ledge.
And there's no, in that this is a subdivision, there are no actual property lines being drawn on the
That's correct.
property?
That's correct.
So you're basically going to, these will be, what, condominiums? Or they're just rentals?
Just rentals.
They're just rentals?
Yep. Correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
After I said that, I thought I had to verify it.
Okay. So this is all in Article 7, Article 8. Sorry, I skipped too far. It's Article 6. Is there anything else in Article 6 that people would like to review?
Jeff,
Go ahead,
I
Peter.
just had a question. One of the waivers was related to impervious soil. Was that what you mentioned that you were asking the board for a couple of waivers, and I thought one of them was related to the amount of impervious soil and
Well, it's related to that. Let me get it back out here. Article 6, Section D, and the requirement for stormwater management plan prepared by a professional engineer. You're allowed to waive that and not require that if the added impervious area is less than 5% of the subdivision. So we're asking for a waiver for not having a stormwater management plan provided by a professional engineer, is what we're asking for.
Because it's over 5%?
It says if it's less than 5%, you folks can waive that.
Right, and it is.
Oh, okay. It is less than 5%?
Yeah.
Got it, got it. So the waivers, just so that we have them listed, are the professional engineer's plan for stormwater.
Yep,
Underground utilities not being provided.
right.
What was I think there was a
The right
third
here.
one?
You've got the,
Is it in the letter?
Underground utilities.
Yeah, it just said,
Yeah, and I got to apologize. I got Article 6, Section D, number 25, and I
Right.
didn't write down what that really is.
okay, I can,
right,
that's the erosion and sedimentation control plan.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
And since
And
we're
then
not
the
to grade
the
bond,
fourth one was the performance guarantee.
Performance guarantee. Okay. 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 We have the ability, as I mentioned before, as a board, to look at Article 11. So I would say we can do so. Chuck has, in his letter, addressed most of the items from Article 11. Are there any things in what he's addressed that people have issue with? I don't feel like we need to go through them all unless you'd like to talk about any of them. So I'm opening it up to the board for comment. So if you look at Chuck's letter, the application, starting on page 4? No. 4?
Jeff,
Mhm.
did a name come up?
Name of the subdivision?
Yeah,
That was one thing that we flagged.
because
What are you gonna
you'll
name
need that. I mean,
Yeah, so I'm like to go through all of it and then list out the conditions.
Subdivision.
Yeah,
So it's gonna be Chelsea Market subdivision.
sounds good. Put it on the drawing and we can do that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Are there any other items from Article 11 you'd like to talk about?
No.
We thinking? Still considering?
I don't have anything from Article 11.
Okay, thanks. Tom, do you have anything you're looking at?
Talking about subdivision article.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Jan, anything? coming
I
up
just
in
have
terms-
something of global interest that we need to talk about at some point, is do we need to reevaluate the 100-year floods and all of those kinds of things, given what's happened as the USGS made different surveys, so we up to date. It has nothing to do with this today,
Okay.
but it just struck my mind.
Yeah.
So I'm writing it down.
Thanks for the note. Are there anything in Article 11, Jan, that you'd like to
No,
review?
no, I'm fine.
Thank you. Peter, anything else in Article 11? Okay, thanks. All right, so think that we've reviewed and appreciate your comments. I say that we're good on Article 11. So I don't think Article 12, even though you listed the design guidelines, well, we can talk about them. So Article 12 is the general design guidelines for subdivisions. So they've got one page on it, and we've talked about some of these things. I'll just go through them. So well construction, not applicable. It'll be served by public water. There are no new hydrants proposed. Again, fire department took no issue with that. Traffic conditions, there will be an existing curb cut that's reused for the duplex. And so it's really just perhaps the vehicles associated with those two units. Impact on natural beauty, aesthetics, historic sites, wildlife habitat, rare natural areas, or public access to the shoreline. There are limited, really, considerations here for, or town ordinances that govern what the thing has to look like. We don't really get into architectural design in doing a subdivision review, so I'd say there's not much we can talk about there. Stormwater management, this we discussed. The stormwater will remain as existing, except we're proposing to capture the roof runoff, as Chuck mentioned. No lots, as they discussed. The utilities are overhead, and the monuments are, just tell us to look at the survey. It's not a cluster development, they declared, and it's not near Great Pond, so no phosphorus control is required. So limited things there unless anyone sees otherwise. No.
Did we get any comment from abutters?
We got one. Did you see that in the
I'm not,
in the SharePoint folder?
I need to take another look at it.
Okay. Take a look. Peter, any comments on Article 12's items? No, okay, thank you. Jan, any comments on Article 12? Tom, I'll give you a minute to look at that email. You can just close that. So far, we just have these conditions. The condition for a name, which they said they've already come up with. I think that has to appear on the drawing though, right, Orion?
Yep.
So you'd have to get a fresh drawing. The amount of impervious soil, the runoff control, underground utilities, and performance guarantee. So those last three are waivers that we'd be granting, so I'd like to discuss any of the waivers that anyone takes issue with.
I don't know if it's within the waivers or not, but I'm a little concerned about not knowing what you're going to do with debris, materials there, not having a location for them. Is there an estimate of what will have to be taken off the property?
I haven't done a calculation how much great soil needs to be dug out for.
Well, usually, I mean, using your experience, what is your estimate? What do you guess the project's gonna create?
Yeah, let me reach up here and pull a number out of the sky.
Well, but it's your number, so.
You know, let's, you know, maybe 50 yards.
Uh-huh. And what would happen to debris like that? It has to go someplace. Don't we require?
Nevertheless, whether there is or isn't debris or
Well,
spoils removed, it has to follow the legal practices of how it
Okay,
is
and so that's
disposed,
in place already, yes.
Right, it's really just a matter of we have to ask the question.
Sure. No,
Yeah.
I understand. It's just, we don't have a contractor on board yet, and,
Right.
you know, it's, you know, it's wherever he,
Right, okay.
You are not currently planning on putting it in a big pile of silt out behind everything, correct?
no,
There we
no,
go.
no.
Good. There we go. And the building that gets knocked down is not gonna just stay there in a pile where
No,
it
no,
will be
no,
removed
no,
from the
no.
site. Perfect. Got it.
Pretty fast, I'd imagine. Okay, so still discussing the waivers that we need to grant. So sedimentation, runoff control, just not having a study done is what you're asking for the waiver on, right?
Right, right.
I mean, this is, in my opinion, no different than building a house, like a
Yeah,
modest-sized house on a
Right.
lot, which would not require, in most cases, this kind of engineered drawing for runoff control. I see people nodding unless anyone.
I mean, the reason for the requirement is because this is listed as a subdivision of one form or another.
Correct.
Which could be much larger, that could be
That's
10
correct.
houses or
Correct.
something. So, but we're dealing with basically two units.
Right,
So I would treat it gently.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, what about, amount of impervious soil waiver? I think we've discussed the impervious soil is really a lot coverage issue as far as the
Right.
town
So-
ordinance is concerned, and there's lots of lot that's untouched
Right,
uphill.
right.
So the amount of impervious soil, I would think, doesn't need to be studied too deeply.
Nope.
Any comments, Sam?
No, just saying, yeah, the stormwater is management by a professional engineer is tied to the impervious area. And then the X piece underneath it is because it's not in the watershed of a great pond. The best practices for silt control that he has outlined is what he's looking for as,
Right.
is that enough? And I think yes to both of those,
Yeah.
Article 6 questions.
Tom?
Well, the comment that we received from an abutter raises the question, again, of lot coverage. And I think that was what we discussed earlier. Is
Absolutely.
lot coverage
Yep.
based on the total lot or the buildable area?
Right.
Yep, and in response to that part of that question.
And the conclusion was it's the lot itself.
That's correct.
Yep.
So that's an interesting question, but it's a moot point.
Right, thank you.
The other thing is, we get into the question of beautification beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Right.
And I'm in favor of that, but I am not of having beautiful things and beautiful properties, but we can go around and we can pick at a lot of things.
Mhm.
So I think that's a very subjective, thing. I think it's important to impress on people who are doing new construction to try to make things better looking than they were.
Right.
To do some landscaping, to have building materials and building designs that enhance the community rather than make it look shabbier.
Right.
So,
Yeah, and
but
they're,
that's, again, in the eyes of the beholder.
right, and for residential spots, and so we have commercial standards in that zoning district, but for residential units, it's, this, the general standard for all residential units that we have throughout the town, so.
I have a hard time hearing you say it.
I said we have general standards for residential places
Yes.
throughout the town, and then those are the standards that would apply.
Yes.
There's nothing else past that.
Well, generally, the standards are to match existing designs, building heights, to prevent uniformly boring facades, to have some architectural interest in what we're doing. So that's the kind of thing that I'm always looking for. Like, what are we doing to improve the property rather than just adding more space?
Right.
Yeah.
I think we're all in favor of, what, as you say, is in the eye of each beholder's.
I'm just raising it as an issue
Yep.
that people are concerned about things like that.
For sure. And I think, taking down an older building, adding a new construction building, and then again, with the use of the rain garden in the front of it, you're gonna actually have a little bit more than just a regular flat garden or a flat yard in the front piece, inside the buffer zone. So I think that plan as laid out, kind of handles that to a satisfactory amount.
But my personal opinion is what we're gonna put in is gonna look better than what's there right now.
Absolutely, mine too.
We love that improvement. We love more housing too.
Right.
Okay, any other comments on that point? Tom, I think that may have cut you off.
Oh.
Okay. Jan, any issues with the?
Well, the first thing that the abutter writes
Mm-hmm.
about trash dumpster locations, personal property, storage of children's bicycles, is any of that our concern?
Well,
Really?
that's my piece, is that we have standards, and the enforcement of those standards are handled by enforcement, not by the planning board.
That's my question.
That's correct.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
so
it can't be
there-
a concern, but it'll be handled by other people than
Okay.
us.
Then I have no issues with it.
Yep. What about underground utilities versus overhead wires?
Yeah, again, if we're putting in an entire brand-new subdivision, I would understand that, but 2 of the 3 buildings of this particular subdivision already have overhead power. I think they're a pretty good case for waiving that one as well, unless anybody feels differently.
No? Jan?
I have no problem.
Don't you have anything? Okay. And then performance guarantee for waiver's sake. I mean, we require performance guarantees for, putting in major subdivisions where there might be a 2-lane road that goes to them. We also require it for apparently putting in a duplex, so. It's their property, they hope to do it themselves, so, they'd be guaranteeing us on top of themselves, but is that necessary? How do you feel?
I think it's like building a house.
Okay, Jan, how do you feel about that?
I'm sorry.
How do you feel about waiving the performance
I'm
guarantee?
fine with it.
Okay, Peter?
I think it's
Same?
fine.
Same.
Thank you. Okay, so I think we've addressed all of the waivers as issues. So then I'm going to say that we need to turn to Orion to tell us how do we vote on the findings of facts for this application? Do
How
we
do-
have to do a finding of fact for each chapter?
Yeah, one by one.
Okay,
If you could do your motion, second,
okay, so
vote
I'll
on each of them.
list them as Article,
Actually, you can lump it together. You could say, you're approving the waivers for
361.
Article 6D24, Article 6D25, Article 12.6, and Article 13.
On the waivers?
Yep. you got that.
What about for the rest of the review? Can we just do the whole Article 6 by its, altogether?
and then you would need
Article 11,
to-
Article 12?
Article 6 as a whole, Article 11 as a whole, Article 12 as a whole.
Okay. Okay, so I think we should do those waivers separately, and
Okay.
as Orion says, do the articles separately. So 7 motions we'll have to have. If anyone would like to propose, I think we should do the waivers first. Would anyone like to, anyone has it in front of them?
Could I
offer
simply
waiver?
move that we accept the waivers as discussed?
I think we should do it one by one, but
I don't have the numbers in front of me.
so that
I can't help
it's
you.
clear. Does anyone have them in front of me besides me?
Just a second, I'll get them.
I can read them out and somebody can make the motion. So the first waiver ask was for Article 6, Section D, number 24, for stormwater management. Do I have a motion to allow the waiver of that section?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Jan, okay? Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 500, okay. Second waiver application was for Article 6, Section D, number 25. Because the project is not in the watershed of a great pond, best practice managements for runoff management will be applied.
So moved.
Thank you, Chan. Second,
Second.
Sam. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? 500. Okay, the third one is Article 12, Section 6, requiring a subdivision utility to be underground. Do we have a motion to waive that requirement?
So moved.
Okay,
Seconded.
Sam, Jan. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? 500. And the fourth and final waiver was for performance guarantees to waive the requirement as listed in Article 13. Do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Simultaneous.
There you go. Give it to Jan. I'll
Give it to
second it.
Jan, Sam second.
There
Any
we
further
go.
discussion? All those in favor? 500.
All right.
Okay. Moving on, Article 6, is it 6 or 600?
6.
6. Article 6, do we have a motion to accept the application meets the requirements for Article 6?
I move that we accept the application for Article 6, Section D, all requirements.
Thank you, Jan. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Tom, okay. Any further discussion, Article 6? All those in favor? 500. Okay. Do we have a motion for approval of the application that it meets the requirements of Article 11 in the subdivision ordinance?
So moved.
Sam, thank you.
Second that.
Okay, Jan. Any further discussion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, Article 12. Do we have a motion that the application meets the requirements for Article 12 of the subdivision ordinance?
So moved.
Thank you, Jan. Is there a second?
I'll second
Tom, thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? 500. Okay, final motion that the application meets the requirements of the subdivision ordinance of the town of Rockport. Can I have a motion on that effect?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, Sam, Jan, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in
Hold on,
favor?
one,
Whoa, 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 whoa.
the one condition of.
Oh,
the-
sorry,
the
yes, you're
name.
right. Condition that the subdivision is named when it reaches our desk for signature. Is that the only condition that we had, Orion?
And then mention the waivers again.
And the waivers, and that the waivers be, okay. I'll list out what we need to have, isn't it? Can I get a motion that the project meets the requirements of the Town of Rockport subdivision ordinance with the conditions that it be properly named on the final sheet in the application, and that the waivers are applied to the exceptions to the ordinance?
So moved.
Thank you, Jen. Is there a second?
Second.
Sam. Okay, any further discussion on that? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Why,
bearing
you
with
have
us.
a daughter you could name the subdivision after?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right,
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
You got it.
6:16 PM. Okay, the next item on our agenda is a subdivision review for parcel at Commercial Street, identified as tax map 27, lot 163-001, owned by Midcoast Habitat for Humanity and represented by Mike Sabatini of Landmark Corporation Surveyors and Engineers, and Tia Anderson,
Yes.
property owner. First of all, let me ask, does anyone on the board wish to identify a conflict of interest that would prevent them from rendering a fair judgment on this application? Hearing none, thank you very much. So, as before, I'll allow you to present this to us as your final application. Then we'll take clarification questions from the board and then open it to public comment for anyone to speak, and then we'll do our deliberations.
Very
So
good.
take it away.
Thank you. I assume you're going to have the plan, you can see the plan there, yep. So my name is Mike Sabatini with Landmark. Just quickly go over the submittal. There's a cover letter that goes over submission requirements and performance standards. There's attachments that talk about requests for sewer availability, water availability. Yes.
These microphones are only for the viewers.
Okay.
They don't work in here, so if you could
Speak
talk
up
a little bit louder. because
Absolutely.
I'm having trouble and you're facing me. so
Okay.
A little bit louder.
Very good, I will. Excuse me.
Thank you,
The-
Jan.
One of the attachments was a request for sewer and water availability. And I wanted to let you know that we received a letter from the Maine Water Company that they do have available water to serve this project. I made copies but forgot to bring them, so I'll get them to you the next time we meet. There's a wetland report in there. I wanted to point out that it was from a while back, but the wetland, in that report, it talks about subsurface wastewater disposal. That does not apply to this project. We're going to be using public sewer. There's an entrance permit that we have recently received from Maine DOT that's in the packet, and some draft condominium documents as well. As far as plans, there's a recording plat that is separate from site development plans. The recording plat is going to be the one that you sign and record should we get through this approval process. And it refers to the site development plan that is more of the infrastructure. Just to go over those plans a little bit, the recording plat has the unit layout on it. Again, this is going to be a condominium form of ownership. So the unit layout is important to that. And you'll note on that recording plat that there's a separate, we talked about the daycare lot, and that's been separated out as Lot 2. And we're not showing any development on that at this time, but we would obviously come before this board under perhaps site plan review should that lot get developed. So that's just a separate blank lot at this point. The recording plat does reference the infrastructure plan, so just to tie the two together. And one thing that we do need to, before we're done here, is formalize access easements because there is an existing access easement over the property, and we will probably formalize some access to Lot 2 as well. As far as the site development plans, there's a utility layout with more detail with showing service connections to all the units. And there's a fire hydrant proposed and connection to a 12-inch main for the water. For the sewer, again, there's service connections shown to all the units. And we certainly acknowledge with the sewer that there's a force main from a proposed pump station that goes up to the road, and it can't just go there and stop. There is a proposed project that's being funded by a grant that the town received. And that work is ongoing. It's in a design process. And hopefully, as we get through this approval process and they do their design process, the two will join up. As far as power, there's a little bit more detail shown on that, including services to to the units, and it's all underground, with exception of one pole to get across Route 1, and then it'll go underground from there. What I'm showing on the plan right now is schematic and will be in need of CMP design, and then I'll reflect that design on the plans when we have that. Stormwater. The town standards refer to the state standards, actually, and the state standards have thresholds based on disturbed area and impervious area, in that when you're over an acre of disturbed area, you pass through a threshold, and in our case, we are over 1 acre of disturbed area for the entire project, about 1.8 acres, but we are under 1 acre of impervious area. So with those two thresholds, under one and over the other, it puts us requiring to use the basic standards. And those basic standards are erosion control, inspection and maintenance, and housekeeping. And the erosion control obviously is, safe conveyance. During construction, making sure silt fences are in place. We're showing some check dams on the plan. After construction, it's more about where's the stormwater going? Is it safely conveyed? Is it discharged to, a riprap apron? Those kind of things. On the inspection and maintenance, there's some during construction and some after construction. There's notes on the plans referring to all of that. And then housekeeping is, spill prevention, dust, and things of that nature. We will have to also submit a stormwater permit by rule to DEP. That has not been done yet, but will be done shortly. And we'll let you know how that's going. Additionally, for stormwater, we talked a little bit about this on the site walk. We didn't want to just discharge stormwater over onto the abutting property and then down over a steep bank. So we thought it would be prudent to collect it and take it to a safer, the swale that runs through the northern side of the property will attenuate the stormwater. And what I mean by that is it'll take a longer path to Harkness Brook, and that longer path will actually slow down the effects of any peak runoff caused by the project. So there'll be attenuation, and one other item that we did is you'll see on the units there's drip edge, and they're kind of oversized so that the runoff from the roofs will be stored somewhat in the drip edge and allow some infiltration. So it's just a little easy thing you can do to go above and beyond the basic standards. And lastly, there was a couple issues we talked about the pre-application meeting. The traffic, we had talked about not needing a traffic report because the peak hour generated by this project is around 25 trips in the peak hour, and when you compare that to the 900 peak hour trips on Commercial Street, it's a little bit of insignificant. It doesn't also fall through, go above the requirements in the ordinance. I believe it was 40 parking spaces, and I can't remember the amount of peak trips, but the other, lastly, we talked about not needing a hydrogeologic study because we're not doing subsurface wastewater disposal, we're not drawing water from wells, so there would be no impact to the groundwater. So that's my spiel. I'm happy to answer any questions and looking forward to hearing comments from the public.
Okay, questions of clarification nature from the board? Peter? None? Jan?
Do you think that there will be any extra traffic control devices necessary where the subdivision exits onto the main roads, other than a basic stop sign?
Yeah, no, there'd be a basic stop sign, and we applied for and received the DOT entrance permit that verified the site distance.
Okay.
So, and the entrances are aligned from the repair shop for the most part, and that's always good when you're directly across from another entrance.
Yeah.
It minimizes confusion.
I agree.
So No, I feel like there needs to be any,
So DOT is fine?
yeah, DOT granted us an entrance permit
Right.
for
And
this
our-
project.
Our police department, are they part of the conversation?
I think I saw some comments come in, Orion?
Yeah, the police, fire, and public works have all.
They're all fine.
Indicated, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Is that the only comment you had? Tom? Clarification questions?
No.
Sam? Okay. I had one, which is you said formalize the access easement.
Yeah.
So is that between you all and the property owner that's down the shared
Yeah, I
access?
feel like that should get formalized and it should show up on the recording plat.
Okay, so it doesn't change anything about your plan so far, it's just a matter of having an agreement on
Yeah.
that?
I think so, even if it's shown as a proposed access easement, as long as it's formalized in some way.
Okay.
I think that would be prudent before we finish this
Okay.
process, yeah.
And one other question was, the hydrant that you spoke of, there's one hydrant?
Yes.
And is it, what I'm seeing on the plan, I think located like almost center to all of the housing lots, there's a tiny little blue X.
Exactly, yeah.
That's the one?
That's it, yeah.
Where's the nearest hydrant on Commercial Street?
Good question.
I'm just wondering if at
Probably
this
down by
time,
Pascal Avenue, maybe?
is that a hydrant that could also serve Lot 2?
Yeah, yes, I mean, they could, it's a little bit ways
Yeah.
away, but, yeah.
Okay.
I noticed, I believe, the fire chief mentioned he saw the hydrant and he didn't mention that he didn't like the location, but
No.
it would be worth following up with him to see the method.
He said
by
he'd
which-
require it, is all I think he
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he didn't talk about where it should be located, and I was just
Well,
wondering.
based on the application, this is just for that, so I guess lot 1, lot 2 doesn't have anything on it.
It's not developed yet, but I wondered about if, had he known that was potentially a daycare facility, if he may have required that hydrant be closer to it, or
It's
be
kind
a
of
second
it's
hydrant?
kind of hard to answer right now because we
Yeah.
don't know what it is.
We don't know what it is.
If,
nothing's shown.
the development is proposed on lot 2, at that point in time, there will be requirements that they'll have to meet.
By Pascal.
Right.
So,
If they're doing the infrastructure prior to that, I think it's something for them to consider,
I hear you.
if that question should be answered before they get that far. That's all.
We're happy to talk to the fire chief
Yeah.
and pose the scenario of how he would fight a fire and what he would do and
Yep.
where that, I'm pretty sure there's a hydrant by Pascal, but we can verify that too.
This is more of like a friendly thing, like,
Yeah.
while you're
No.
doing it, you might
no, I agree.
think about that?
I
Okay.
agree.
That's all I had for clarification questions.
I have one.
Okay, go ahead, Jen.
I will admit to not having read the condo owner's full Bill of Rights there,
Shame.
but I'm going to assume that you guys have been through this before and that there are state requirements for how condo associations must meet certain requirements, and that you've done all your due diligence and everything in there is kosher.
Yes.
Thank you. Saves me a lot of time.
Okay.
We're
well,
actually required, just for your information, certain funding that we receive through the state.
Yes.
We are required to
Required,
comply with
yes.
those.
Good, yeah. I figured there were checks on that somehow, yes.
Thank you. So I think that's the board's clarification questions. So now I'd like to open the floor to public comments. 6:30
Do you
PM?
want us to retreat? or-
I don't know. However,
I don't know
if
if I will.
there's a microphone, Orion,
Yeah, give me 1 second.
you can pass. I think people want to use it.
Do you want to, we don't mind.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, that works, that works.
So whoever would like to, come on, get up, get comfortable in the chairs that are here. As a reminder, just state your name, where you live, and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Good evening.
Hey,
Can you hear me?
yes.
Sure thing.
My name is Stephanie Long. I live at 262 Commercial Street. I'm coming to ask for, to express some concerns and ask for some things for our home and our privacy with the new development. We continue to be appreciative that Habitat is a good organization and they have good intentions. and that Rockport definitely needs more housing, and we certainly need more childcare. We feel that their proposed pocket community is too big for the acreage size, and that they've underestimated the impact on the surrounding area and the abutting neighbors. Our concerns are privacy and trespassing. The development will continue to surround our house, and we will have no side not facing a building. Our neighbors and ourselves also will have very little backyard, being that there's going to be 10 houses in there clumped together. We have concerns about adults and children and roaming pets, and we have actually had people who already make a shortcut through our front lawn to get to Route 1. So that is, it's a very big concern. We also have concerns about noise and light pollution. We're already on a major highway. It's heavily traveled. We've already mentioned that there are wetlands. There will be a disturbance of the wetlands. There are all kinds of critters back there, which we enjoy seeing, which I'm sure will have to be rehomed somewhere. I know that there was a prior traffic study that was denied. We continue to ask for another traffic study. On a random Monday, June 23rd, we sat at my house and watched 518 cars go by the house from 4 to 4:30. And then we sat again from 5 to 5:30 and saw 517 cars go by the house. That is a total of 1,035 cars passing the house in an hour. So if you ask, how many of those came out of the Rockport Suites, which would be similar to the pocket community, I would say not as many as you would think. But if you want to add a daycare, you're talking about business hours that people are coming and going, and that's going to create a lot of traffic. Did you have anything traffic related?
So I'm sorry, I'm Robert Long, spouse, at 262 Commercial. So under the ordinances in the traffic impact study, for a full traffic study requirement, yes, it talks about 35 trips from the development, but it also talks about the traffic safety and capacity deficiencies in the vicinity of the development. You folks were all just there right before the meeting. We saw your trucks and cars all parked there next to our house. And you can see it's on a curve. There's a tremendous amount of traffic, especially right now during tourist season. And that's why we continue to push for a traffic study.
In addition to that, the last meeting that we were at, I believe we were all in compliance with the fact that we have a traffic problem in that particular area. So that stands to reason that, you know, maybe it should be reconsidered, please. We also have concerns that it's just too big. We're just asking to please downsize. We want to be good neighbors, but there's going to be a lot of noise pollution. There's not going to be a lot of vegetation. If you compare the projects from the other ones, they're in Rockland. Yep. The Philbrick Commons project, it says in Google, is 12 homes on a 10-acre site. The Firefly, with the actual paperwork, says that it is 11 homes on a 6.5-acre site. This proposal now wants to cram 10 homes into a 3.6-acre site. We know that part of that is wetlands, and I think we just heard them say that the actual building sites are going to be 1.8 acres for 10 homes. That's going to be a lot of cramming in there. A lot. Did you have anything on that?
Right, under the design parameters, there is a requirement in Rockport that 50% of the parcel be set aside as permanently undeveloped. They have now taken and subdivided into 2 lots, as everybody knows, which means it's not 3.6 acres for the housing. I don't know how big lot number 2 is that they've now cut off, but surely that makes the housing section now smaller than 3.6 acres. Plus you have the wetlands, so now you're looking at 50% of whatever's left for the housing has to be undeveloped per Rockport ordinance.
We have, is it all right if I pass things out?
You can offer them up. I don't know, will you have enough copies and
I-
how the
I
public
do,
would
I
see
do.
them?
I do.
But,
Actually, why don't you do that? So the,
yeah, we're at 6 minutes.
Is it okay to approach?
Yeah.
I'm used to it.
Okay.
So the
not.
first Google map that we have on the front is the Philbrook Commons. And you'll notice that it's off the main road, just like this one is, but it is completely surrounded by parcels of dense trees. The second Google map you'll see is of the Firefly, which does not have surrounding vegetation, and between its community street next door, there's actually no trees at all. And then the third map is our current location and the proposed buildings, which is very dense with vegetation. And did you want to do the, yep. And then these are photos that we took. The first 2 pages, sorry, did you want to do that?
Yeah, so you start off with, we're looking at, I'm sorry, what's the,
This one is the Philbrook.
Philbrook. So the first pictures of the Philbrook development, which is more spread out, and you'll see heavily forested around it. And that's page 1 and 2, the first 2 pages. And then the next pages are Firefly, which sits back quite a bit from Talbot Avenue. And then you see the homes clustered together, including the cottage-style homes, which is what they're proposing, I believe, for behind us. And 1, 2, 3, 4.
4 pages in.
So 4 pages into that are pictures from the abutting street. And you're looking from the lawn of their neighbors back onto the Firefly project. And you will see no trees, a little bit of vegetation. And the top picture on page 4 is the back of the house that faces it, which is basically right looking into the building at Firefly. So clearly their privacy is gone. And you folks did the site visit just before the meeting. You're looking at it right now fully forested and during the summer when all the leaves are in the trees. Now imagine it deforested and fall, winter, and spring with no leaves in the trees. And they want to do the same thing, is put this development right up behind us. And
When there are no leaves on the trees, we can actually see the home that's down the road behind us when there's no leaves on the trees.
the one that will share the driveway with this project. The last pictures are looking at our backyard and then our side yard. The picture with the shed in it is right where the child care center is going to be, right behind it. So you can see how close all of this is to us. And I do know, sorry, bear with me a moment.
The proposed property currently right now, if you see it, there are, I don't know if you can see the greenery on there, but there is a smattering of trees, and I don't see any indications that there is going to be any vegetation that is left in surrounding the Boyd property line. So that would be also a concern that we have.
And the ordinance also includes a requirement that, I assume this is considered a clustered subdivision? Because that's what I'm looking at in the ordinance. It requires a buffer zone of at least 50 feet between the cluster development and the abutting property.
We would like to make a request that if this project is approved, we would respectfully request a solid fence completely surrounding the community on the existing property line of, well, I want to say the subdevelopment, but eventually I'll say both lots 1 and 2. And we would also request that there be further screening, vegetation, increased privacy for everyone, and not just us, but for those people too, that you're going to cram in an acre lot and 10 homes.
And along to a point made earlier, 801.6 about nuisances is that no person shall make or cause to be made repetitive loud noises which disturb, injure, or endanger the comfort, health, peace, and safety of others. That's one of our concerns with these. I don't know how many people will be living in these total units. And then under 801.7, under lighting, number 3, adequate buffers using either the natural landscape or artificial screening are required to prevent unnecessary or undesirable light from being directed beyond the lot lines onto adjacent properties. If you look at their proposal, tell me where you see trees or fencing or anything that will meet that ordinance requirement. So that's one of the reasons why we're heavily pushing for those elements.
Okay.
And we appreciate your time. If anybody has questions,
No, but thank you for your comments. I'm sure we'll be addressing them.
thank you.
Oh, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone from the public, please step right forward.
I hope you can hear me better than I can hear you.
Can hear you.
My name is Susan Morrissey, and I own the property that abuts this proposed development. It's at 270 Commercial Street. It's accessed by a long downhill drive. My house, which is a rental, and I rent it to a Section 8 tenant in support of affordable housing. I could rent it to somebody and probably get a lot more money for it, but I do have a commitment to making our community diverse. And but any event, the issue that I have raised is one of drainage. The right-of-way that comes off Commercial Street and comes down to my house is precipitous. I believe Habitat now owns 60% of that right-of-way. I own the bottom 40% of the right-of-way, which is essentially flat. So what happens is I'm flooded a lot of the time. I think you all have a letter that I sent to Orion that explains it all. It gets super wet down there in the spring and it lasts for a couple of months. I brought in loads of gravel and it just disappears into the mud. Additionally, all the adjacent lawn areas are just saturated, squish, squish, squish. I had to close off the windows in the basement, you know, that come out. The window wells were just filling up with water and then broke through the window and flooded the basement. So my primary concern is if this project is going to go forward, that the developers mitigate, you know, the flooding problem that I have down there. I mean, water flows downhill. There's not too much that you can argue with that about, but I think, you know, with some proper engineering, that could solve that problem for me. Additionally, and I hadn't thought of this initially, but just hearing the discussion tonight about access. And I'm happy to hear that you guys, have worked with the DOT, but that is a really tricky place to get in and out of. You come down a hill from the intersection with Route 90, you come up, there's the Rockport Automotive right across the street, and then coming from the south, you get people just with the pedal to the metal, and the line of sight is short. What's fortunate is that there is a wide corridor there marked with a white line, so if you come out and find somebody's about to run into you, you can pull over. But I think it's going to be really important for whoever lives in the new development, and also for my tenant, and everybody who has road access in that area, to have that very carefully engineered. I'm even wondering if maybe a stoplight might be appropriate. I know it would be too many stoplights because there's another one right up the hill, but it really is tricky. I mean, even with the go slow signs, people who are in a hurry often don't pay attention. So that's a concern, but primarily for me, it is mitigating my water problem, and also it's not my privacy, it's my tenant's privacy, but there's a lot of woodland down there, and so it seems to me that there's plenty of vegetation to provide a screen between my property and the development, and I would like that maintained. And I think that pretty much sums it up. I think it's a great idea to make more affordable housing in Rockport. I do wonder if this particular plan is a little ambitious, having walked all through the woods down there, but I'm not an engineer. I can only speak from what I've observed. So I think that's it for me, and thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Come on up. Welcome, Joe.
Good afternoon. My name is Joe Stranowski, and I live in Rockport. As many of you know, I've been a proponent, supporter, led some of the effort to try to change some of the town ordinances to be able to enable communities like this. Rockport desperately needs affordable housing, and I thank TIA and Habitat for bringing this project forward. I hope to be able to volunteer to help with the construction once this gets underway. And the Philbrook community, I think, is a model community, and hopefully it turns out as well as that. My concerns. In the application that was submitted for this subdivision, in the section titled Summary of Subdivision Performance Standards, Item 6, the applicant stated the Compass Point subdivision will utilize the town of Rockport public sewer system. Based on the current sewer maps that I have found for the town of Rockport, there is no sewer there in front of this property today. And it seems that the availability of a town sewer for this project is a requirement in the land use ordinance. Item 6 goes on to state that the public collection system will be extended along Commercial Street as part of a Northern Borders grant. I looked in the material. There is no information in the public record about any grants or alternative funding. I guess that the board neither has seen that since it's not in the public record. When I look at the Northern Borders website, I did find a press release from 3 days ago that listed some of those communities that were awarded funds, but Rockport wasn't on that list. So it would be good if there was more information, that information be disclosed to the board and also to the public. And so finally, my concern from all this, I believe that myself and the residents of Rockport would be confronted with substantial risk if this project was approved today. the applicant moved forward and the sewer is delayed or never reaches that parcel. We'd have a real dilemma on our hands. This would not be good for either party, either the project developer or the town. And having been through some rather controversial projects in the town, I wouldn't like to see us go there again. Today, this project doesn't meet the terms of the conditions stated in the application or the requirements of the land use ordinance. And I'd like to see this project successful. Rockport sorely needs this kind of housing, but I would encourage the planning board to provide favorable feedback to the applicant today and to approve the project when the sewer connection is available, so we don't get ourselves into that dilemma. One other thing that I might just comment based on some of the other comments I heard here tonight, and that is about the traffic in the area. I live across the street, same neighborhood there, just off Beach Hill Road, and it is near impossible, especially in the summertime, to get out of Beach Hill Road. There is a dentist, Bleecker and Greer, the nursery with the farmer's market on Saturdays, and now this development within 300 feet of that intersection. And then the traffic light that pulsates traffic through that area that continues to cause problems. I'm not sure, and I said this in the pre-application review, I'm not sure that this is going to have a major impact on that. I think it's a bigger problem in that area and in the village. And I've not seen anything or heard anything being done since that was brought up in February. I don't know if there is, it just hasn't been publicized. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe.
Hi, my name is Ben Leone, and I live on Beach Hill Road. I did send a letter today, probably late. I can't imagine you all have it, especially considering that I understand you're on a site visit before this. I sent it about 4:30. So I had some prepared remarks, but since you don't have the letter, I thought I could just read the letter.
Sure.
I normally don't like to just read into a meeting like this, but here it goes. And then maybe Orion, I don't know if it is submitted in time to be able to be made part of the record. It was submitted about 4:30.
Yeah, no, I got it. I forwarded it to them
Okay.
when I got here, so a couple of them probably have seen it and looked at it, but it would be good if you read it.
Okay, sure. So I'm writing today to offer my support for the Habitat for Humanity Affordable Housing Project on Route 1. I've got one young child in preschool. I've got another on the way. In a lot of ways, I represent a demographic in this town that is rapidly shrinking. According to the data found in our own comprehensive plan, the percent of the population between 25 and 45 with kids has plummeted in the last 10 years. Young families aren't moving here because it is a prohibitively expensive place to live and to move to. And that's why I enthusiastically support this project. In fact, I'd welcome a dozen more like it in this town if I could. Projects like these offer a small step in demonstrating that this town welcomes individuals from all demographics and not just those who are wealthy. I've got more on that to follow. But first, I just ask that this board approve the preliminary subdivision approval because it meets the applicable subdivision standards. So on that, I'll address some of the legal standards. Our subdivision ordinance in Article 7 contains a list of criteria that must be met for a project like this to succeed. So far, other than the concern over the connection to sewer, I haven't read any comments that suggest that this project fails those standards as a matter of law. And I think that's pretty much the end of the story. I think if it meets the standards, the project should be approved at the preliminary level. The letters and the public comments opposing this project include concerns about the character, and I did read the comments from the February 27th meeting as well, and did listen online to the comments made verbally at that meeting as well. Those comments include concerns about the character, crime, vegetation clearing, noise, traffic, that it's too dense or it's too ambitious. And to be clear, I just want to say most of these comments don't relate to the legal standards required in the subdivision rules. So I'll get to those comments later, but because they don't relate or don't attack specifically the standards found in the rules, there's really those aren't sufficient legal bases to disapprove the project. So I'm here to ask this board approve it. So now we've got kind of some of this Article 8 stuff out of the way. I think what a lot of the opposition boils down to, and we've seen this over and over in the town in recent history, is a concern that the plan is just a little too dense for this town. There's too much housing on a small lot. And I guess I'm here to offer a substantively different perspective on that. First, I think this project complies with our new comprehensive plan that we just passed. It falls squarely within the growth area delineated within the comprehensive plan in the future land use map. On page 33 of the comprehensive plan, when it talks about the housing crisis in this town, it notes that between 2010 and 2020, the number of housing units increased by only 14 units, while the town's year-round population increased by 228. On page 12, it notes that in 2022, 84.8% of households would be unable to afford a median value home in this town. Those aren't homes sold, that's just the median value home. And then in the appendix at page A19, it looks at 2022 again and states that 96.8% of the houses sold in this town would not have been affordable to the median income household in Rockport. And so what does that mean? It means that in order to afford a property at the median sale price in 2022, a household or an individual purchasing that property would need to make at least $171,000 a year. Since 2022, I think we all know it's gotten worse. According to Realtor.com, which tracks these kinds of things, the median house price listed for sale in this town as of yesterday was $729,000, and that's the median, not the average. So it's not skewed by those few really expensive properties out there. So it's no wonder then that the comprehensive plan concludes on page 32 that, quote, families with children under 17 are not choosing to live in Rockport, possibly due to the cost of housing. And if there's one comment I could make about the comprehensive plan, I think I made this comment before the comprehensive plan committee a few months ago, I would take out the word possibly in that sentence, because I think that is why families are not choosing. It's not a choice when they can't afford to live here. As for solutions, the plan recommends on page 31 that we, quote, promote the type of workforce housing that the town is seeking. And I think this project fits that definition. On page 37, it prescribes that the town should, quote, support the efforts of local and regional housing coalitions in addressing affordable and workforce housing needs. That's exactly what we're doing here today. That's exactly what Habitat for Humanity has proposed. It also seeks to promote the type of housing development here to decrease suburban sprawl. So I want to address that for a second, because in terms of the density of this project, which I understand seems ambitious, seems more dense than some of the projects that are nearby. We are in the 906 commercial residential area, mixed use, and there, for multifamily developments with public sewer, you only need 3,000 square feet per unit. So that's about, for 10 units, that's 30,000 square feet. It's just under an acre. The whole project area, I don't know what the acreage is now for lot number 1, but I can tell you, looking at it, if the whole thing with the two lots together is 3.6 acres, I don't think we're even close to maxing out the density that could be allowed on that property. So it could be a lot denser. We could have a single building with a number of units on there. And so I want to compare that for a second. When we're talking about housing, I think everybody here agrees we need housing. And so in the zone that I live in, which is the rural residential 904, not including the LD 2003 tweaks, but what is included in there right now, for the same number of dwelling units, you need about 10 acres of land that would be impacted by a sprawl. So you could get a subdivision where you have 10 acres with 1 acre lots all around it. You could develop the same amount. I border the 908 zone, which requires 3 acres per dwelling unit. So there, if somebody wanted to put a subdivision in, you'd be sprawling over 30 acres. Here, we have the same amount of housing available to workforce housing, and affordable housing, all compacted here in a very small area. I think some people see that as a bad thing. My perspective is it's a wonderful thing. It reduces the sprawl in the town and reduces the amount of vegetation that we lose here and open space. So I guess in conclusion, I think that this is exactly the type of project that this town needs more of. I think it's exactly the type of project that the comprehensive plan specifically identifies as critically needed. And that's because it is. People can't afford to live here. We have an opportunity to provide something that is desperately needed. We can be a town that welcomes only the wealthiest tier of new owners, or we can show that Rockport welcomes new residents from all backgrounds, from teachers in our schools to the healthcare workers at our hospitals. And I ask you to vote for the latter. And this project is just a small but admirable step to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah. Can we talk afterwards?
Sure. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name's Amanda Dwelly. I live on Beach Hill Road on Rockport, so I also exit into the area that we're talking about, and I'm coming here to support what Habitat is trying to do and the appropriateness of the land uses that they've proposed. So I did have some comments to say on Zone 906 and have some other comments to say on the appropriateness of this form of housing for workforce housing. So, first of all, just looking, went through kind of a similar density calculation of what might be permissible in Zone 906. I had assumed maybe 40,000 square feet for the daycare facility. Just imagine a commercial facility leaving over 116,000 square feet. And my read of the ordinance was the minimum lot size for single family, and 906 with public sewer was 4,000. Oh, sorry. So, imagining carving off 40,000 square feet for potential commercial use, whether it's daycare or something else, leaving about 116,000 square feet for the 10 units. I was interpreting these as single family, so I read the ordinance as the minimum lot size for single family, and 906 assuming public sewer was actually 4,000 square feet, which brought me to actually 29 homes possibly being allowable at 4,000 square feet per home, which is very high and probably might not be palatable. So considering that as what might be permissible, the 10 units seemed appropriate. I also think, consideration of, trying to house 10 families on this site. There's many different housing structures that you could try. Multifamily would be another format. There have been numerous proposals for multifamily workforce housing, some of which have been shot down. So I do think this might be, more palatable, and also thinking of what might be attractive to the types of workers, essential workers, healthcare workers, volunteer firefighters, tradesmen that we're all kind of saying that are much needed in this town, that the comprehensive plan has also talked about trying to attract. I think Habitat has kind of learned what's attractive to that group, and this small single family format seems to work. Given, that does bring some of the land disturbance, that folks have talked about, but it seems like Habitat has a solid plan for stormwater management and is willing to work further to address neighbor concerns. Okay, and then also thinking about the appropriateness of a daycare facility, there's many permitted uses in Zone 906 that seem like heavier use and heavier traffic. Zone 906 allows motels, inns, and bed and breakfast, medical clinics, restaurants, retail, tradesmen shops, heavy landscaping, grocery stores, greenhouse, auto service and sales, animal kennels, wholesale facilities, boat storage, shipyards and sales, places of worship, indoor and outdoor recreation, and I can imagine many of those in different settings generating more than the peak traffic that this cluster development and the daycare would generate. Also considering like neighboring uses, Guinea Ridge Farm can generate an incredible amount of traffic, and as can Bleecker and Gree in a short amount of time. So this seems to be possibly lower, maybe on that same scale, but possibly lower. So I would agree with others that probably not the biggest impact on traffic in that area, though share concerns that there's growing problems at the intersection with Pascal Ave that probably need to be resolved for safety. And I think that has happened with, increases of many commercial uses in that area. Let's see. So, and I just would share some of Ben's comments about the importance of attracting younger working age folks in Mr. Honor, people between maybe the ages of 20 and 64. I was looking at the state economist projections of our age distribution and the old age dependency ratio in Knox County, Maine. In 2010, there were 3 seniors to every 10 working age adults. In 2020, that went up to 5 seniors to every 10 working age adults. In 2030, 7 seniors to 10 working age adults, and it's projected to increase. This is very, very high nationally. We're in the midst of this big change, and I've spoken to a number of people as part of a social vulnerability assessment that the Conservation Commission sponsored for climate action planning, and talking to people about climate vulnerability. The top concern folks had was housing and really attracting essential workers, healthcare workers, teachers, business owners. So I think this project and having cluster development of small single family homes is pretty critical, especially in the downtown area. So really appreciate Habitat for having the fortitude to try to develop this site, and I hope that between the relationship between Habitat and the Planning Board, some of the concerns about stormwater management, traffic, light, vegetation, and things like that could be worked out. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One more comment. I was going to go towards the end. I'm Blythe Castellucci. I am here to support Habitat for Humanity, and I feel surrounded by people who know a lot more than I do. So right now, I'm just going to come here to speak from the heart to folks, because, and I'm also very cold, so I'm, shivering as I give this, not because so much I'm nervous. I feel very confident to be here and to support these folks. So I live in Simonton Corners. I live off of Seaport Drive, and I'm a homeowner as of 4 months ago, and I think I am so proud of me for being a homeowner. I'm a millennial, and I'm a public interest lawyer, and I make very little money, and so does my husband, who's in the arts, and we were only able to buy our home because of intergenerational wealth from both sides of our family. What a gift, including the death of my father to help fund that, and we are so grateful to have the house that we have, and we would not have the house if we didn't have this financial stability. I want to live in a town that is not full of empty summer cottages. I want to live in a town where the playgrounds are full. We're about to build that beautiful playground over on 19 and, that right where the baseball field is. And I would love that to be filled with other families that I could meet. And I would like those to be different families. I would like those folks to have different jobs. I don't just want it to be folks who are remote workers. Myself, I am a remote worker, but just, the coastal cities who get that leisure. I'd like there to be therapists and artists and all sorts of folks there. And I would like to have them look different and be different and not just walk through a town where I feel the same. So I think that Habitat's efforts can do that. And I think that we need a community. We all need to take risks, that everyone needs to take risks, because I feel like when we talk about things like character and, my property values decreasing, what we're really saying is I've been able to get mine, but now I'm not letting space for other people to have theirs. And we live in a time of extreme economic inequality in this country. There is lots that needs to be done, and I think that this is a small step that Rockport could take to make this community better. And I stand with Ben that I would like to have about 10 to 20 more of these. And frankly, if it could be right next door to me, I would welcome that as well. I also submitted written comments that I spent a lot of time on, but it doesn't feel authentic to read them. So I hope you'll take the time to do that later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to speak tonight on this issue? Okay, hearing none, I'll close the public comment period for this item. Thank you all very much for your feedback. It's very much welcome to hear from the public. I will say that there were a couple letters that were received. I think they've been spoken to, so I think we've received everything that's been submitted at this point. I don't think we usually take comments online, but usually there aren't any. I see zero. I see zero coming from Jeff. I just want to say one thing about public comment in general, is that this board encourages the public comment to speak at this meeting, to send letters through Orion's office on issues that we're facing. It allows us to know how the public feels about the things we do. I also want to, on the flip side, say that the kinds of comments that are online, and I think we know what kinds of comments are online on chat boards or sort of in media that aren't completely anonymous, I discourage the board from considering. They aren't known as to whether they're Rockport residents or not. They have no name associated with them. This is a public forum. Those people are welcome to come here and speak, whether they're Rockport residents or not. We'd love to hear from them. But I just wanted to say that, to put that out there so the public knows you're welcome to speak here, but we're not going to consider comments, or at least I discourage members from considering comments that have no name or person attached to them that's willing to stand behind them. So that's all. That's my soapbox for it. So at this time, I think we should go through our deliberations on this application, and I'd invite the applicants to come back. I'll also give you a chance now to, if you want to address things that have been said, we're going to also try to address them, but if you want to, you were sitting patiently, I'll give you the chance right now.
Well, I just wanted to clarify on the plan. It's difficult to read on the screen, but the lot 1 is 3.2 acres, and the daycare lot is 0.6 acres. It was a total of 3.8.
Okay.
That's how it splits up. And you heard the possible density that could occur on a 3.2 acre lot, which we're well under that. Probably best to just talk about any other concerns you have as they come up.
Okay,
rather
we
than
can raise them.
move on.
Tia, would
Did
you
have
have to say
anything you
anything?
wanted to say?
Yeah, I would just say in general, thank you all for your comments. Habitat is in the business of being a good neighbor and developing appropriately within any community we work in. Some of the references to our other projects most recently, there's a little bit of context missing probably and some misinformation. Philbrook Commons is 2.5 acres, and that houses 12 lots, 12 homes, 13 lots total. One is a drainage lot with a common green space area. There is additional vegetation, gardens, et cetera, put in there, and trees will be gradually added.
So those lots were subdivided, that whole lot was subdivided into
Mhm.
individual lots?
Yes. The Firefly Field, it's a 10-acre parcel, 5 of which was wetlands, and the impact on those was minimal.
Yep.
Hence the concentration. I'll speak to, there was a fair amount of NIMBY as we went into the project, but I can tell you that it has been well received, and even those who have the probably the closest proximity to the residents are great neighbors, have been very supportive and engaged during the development of the project. So that was really pleasing to us. And there are natural buffers in some areas, and there's additional plantings going in. The grass just took root in the last few weeks, and we do believe in natural buffers. I don't believe in fencing per se. So I just think from an aesthetic side and a welcoming community feel for neighbors, and and in terms of personal privacy and personal opinion, I get that. That's why there are more rural environments to live in, but I feel that the village, this is a great location for this with walkability, accessibility to town, and the new park that will be in place. So we're excited to be able to provide this.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the applicants from the start? Jan?
The thing that struck me the most was the comment that the sewer doesn't exist. Is that a true thing?
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, I'll speak on that one for just a minute. So
Yes, please, somebody.
It does not currently exist. There is a project right now taking place. The town was awarded $1 million from Northern Border Regional Commission, and I think it was last November, the town voted to appropriate the match for it.
Mm-hmm.
So since then, since we've received that, we've gone through the additional steps. We got our notice to proceed with the grant, and we've been meeting with sewer engineers to begin that process. So right now, if you've seen anybody, they're out and about doing surveying, and then the plan is to line up, and we've met with the developer and our sewer engineer to line this up so that at the time that this goes live, there should be a line there, or right about that same time.
I didn't actually think that you wouldn't figure that out. So,
Yeah.
but I just wanted to hear on tape that it
Sure.
will, if it doesn't exist, it will exist.
Yes.
That's it.
And certainly, if the timing isn't just right,
You wait.
There could be a condition of this.
Yes, of course.
Yeah,
Yes,
or delay, or whatever.
yes.
Orion, is there a proposed timeline for the completion?
Oh man, what was that? That project is broken up into 3 different lines, but this project here is the priority. So I think they're going to start that if they can this year, but it might be next year. But I'd have to revisit my notes on what that proposed timeline is. So they need the surveying, and then they can do the engineering, and then they give me the more exact dates. So I don't have anything exact to give you.
But again, we have a grant for this, and we've
And the money.
voted as a town
Yes.
to match it.
Yes,
So the project is,
fully funded.
there we go.
Okay,
Jeff?
yeah, go ahead, Peter.
I had a couple of questions, but I don't know if you just want to speak to them when we go through those items. I mean, there were certain things that came up about traffic studies and buffer zones and things like that, but if you want to wait for those sections.
You can adjust them as it's on your mind. I mean, when we get to this section, we'll just say as we discussed, so go ahead.
Historically, from what I've seen, traffic studies cannot prohibit a project. Is that correct?
We can require a traffic study.
But once a traffic study comes back, what I've seen in the past is, in theory, you could mitigate some of the traffic issues. But since we're dealing with Commercial Street and Route 1, can we, if an engineer came up and said, I'd like you to do this on Commercial Street, does the town of Rockport have the ability to do that on Route 1?
I'm not sure I have an all-encompassing knowledge of what the traffic study
Well, I mean,
can
if you were to do a subdivision
result in.
on a street that is in Route 1, in theory, I think the town of Rockport would have the ability to do something on a street that's not Route 1. I'm asking the question.
Yeah, I mean, there's DOT standards that you'd then get into, but yes, I'd allow
So
Mike
the
to
way
know.
this would, if the board decided, oh, you should have a traffic study, likely what would happen, because of the numbers we've already discussed, a traffic engineer would come to the conclusion that the level of service of Commercial Street is not affected by this project, and that there's no mitigating actions necessary.
But I have seen in the past, in addition to numbers, that safety mitigations were recommended by traffic engineers. And then, in fact, you could, again, the question I'm asking is Route 1, I don't know how much you could do versus another street. So if a traffic engineer came to you and said, we'd like you to do a deceleration lane or something like that, I don't think because of the DOT requirements, you wouldn't be able to do that, correct?
Yes, and the numbers don't warrant a deceleration lane. One thing, a comment that was brought up tonight about sight distance, we feel we have the proper sight distance, but along that frontage, we can do some clearing to improve sight distance, especially looking to the south. From what I heard, from local knowledge, is that people come up from Pascal Avenue heading north pretty quickly, so a little more sight distance would always be good. So there's some clearing that could happen along Route 1 that we have the control of, that portion of it. So happy to pursue that if that helps.
I'd like to also, because it was said by it's been said almost half a dozen times now, both in the pre-app and now, that section of Route 1, I would say even beyond here, going down to where the sidewalk ends at the Gymnastics Academy, up to the stoplight is far too heavily driven and quickly driven. And I don't think the town, I would repeat what Joe said, I don't think the town has really addressed any part of that yet in terms of traffic slowing, traffic calming. And it would be nice perhaps if either here or at a select board meeting or wherever the right forum is, there was some kind of workshop as to what can the town do about that section of road. Because, I mean, we had a traffic study done. The town commissioned not a traffic study, but an engineering report on traffic done to address the problems that exist at the intersections with Route 1. But there really hasn't been talked about since then. And this issue's come up. We've been seeing numerous projects on Route 1, and it's sort of been like, well, we can't really do much about it. Like, approve this project, approve the next project. Neither one of them is really impacting the greater issue, which is traffic flowing from south to north and north to south during the summer. Yeah. So it'd be nice to know, like, what can we do about this? This clearly is a developed area, and you wouldn't go 60 miles per hour through Camden, but it's okay to go 60 through Rockport. So I don't quite understand why we're not doing something
Good point. That is a bigger
about that.
problem than this project can take care of, for sure. But if we can
It's a bigger issue.
Yes. We
Go
can
ahead.
vote.
But yeah, I mean, in some ways, more development does help calm it down because there's more intersections. I mean, I think it would be, I was thinking, maybe a daycare is good because you can put up a 15 mile per hour flasher that says everybody slow down.
No, you're not.
I don't know. But go ahead.
No, that's the piece. I mean, I think we go through this piece, we have our, where did everybody drive slowest? It's on that road right there where we have the most density in this town.
Right.
It's our favorite district. We have the whole thing around it. It's historical. We like it. Rockland's the same way. They have a big main street. They go through and try to get everybody to go through it, and everybody loves that it's there, and they love that part. But again, those are the most densely populated areas of both of those towns, right? Like, and so the things we really like are the areas that are densely populated, but then we also fight against putting that density in other spots where in reality it seems like it will likely improve our perception of those areas. And like you said, if there's a lot of traffic going through there fast, A, it's enforcement, but B, I mean, any of the urban planners talk about that. It's Rockland did it with moving the sidewalks in a little bit and putting trees there. Any of those things where you push in on the people, it slows them down a little bit, and you don't go through Camden at full speed because there's a brick building at 90 degrees waiting for you at the bottom of the hill. But, you know, that section of Route 1 in Rockport is, you know, a beautiful S-curve through the trees. Feels fun, you know what I mean? Like, and not really realizing that there's 16 businesses and a couple of houses and a road that are all there with people trying to get in and out of them. And, you know, it's a matter of what it looks like and what it feels like. And I think there are a couple things we could do urban planning wise to kind of make that adjust, but I think it's gonna look less like what it does in order to make it happen.
Yep.
So, these are various things that are all way past what we're looking at in this particular chart, but.
Yeah, but the amount of traffic isn't going down. It doesn't seem that way, at least the longer we know better, but it's not decreasing over the years, it's increasing. Yeah.
Jeff, I
Go ahead, Peter.
just had one other point. I don't want to, because there's the letter of the law.
Right.
The ordinance. But I don't want to dismiss, and we discussed on the site walk, I don't want to dismiss the importance of buffering. I don't want to dismiss the importance of what we can do. And, you know, in theory, that's not required, some of that. But I, for one, as a board member, would like to see a more in-depth, obviously not tonight, but a plan on what you hope to do. And again, we spoke, I think you agree that some of that should take place. But, you know, a couple of people referenced the letter of the law tonight, which is fine, but I think we as a board can sort of recommend and encourage people to go a little bit beyond what the letter of the law is to try to improve the project. So I just didn't want to let that go like we can't do anything about it because this is the ordinance. And I don't necessarily agree with that, so.
Thanks, Jeff. Thank you. Okay, should we go through the Article 8 in the subdivision ordinance requirements? Am I comfortable with that? Okay. So starting at the beginning, 8.1 procedures, so that just kind of outlines what it is we have to do. I want to bring people's attention to item C, which is prior to approval of the final plan, the applicant should provide a list of state or federal approvals to be obtained. And it lists a DEP permit, Natural Resources Protection Act, but I don't think that is required. DHS permit for a public water system. It goes on for a few more. You mentioned that there was one permit that's outstanding. Are there other permits that are in hand that this ordinance requires that you have?
We have the entrance permit, the DOT entrance permit. There's not enough wetland impact currently to warrant an RPA. We're under the threshold.
Yep.
It's just that outstanding one is the DEP stormwater permit by rule.
Okay. So I think that would be definitely conditional on our
Sure.
approval here for
Yeah.
that to be completed.
Sorry, I want to jump in real quick.
Go ahead, Sam.
Article 8 is the final plan for the major.
sorry.
Is that where we're at, or are we on 7?
Yes, we're on 8 right there, final plan for major subdivision.
Got it.
Is there an issue?
You've submitted for a preliminary plan.
Preliminary
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah.
But, I mean, don't we, in the preliminary, should we stick to the preliminary requirements?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
fine, I can do that. Okay, that's 7 then. Okay, so 7, and process. Just looking at the requirements under D. Sorry, 7.2D. I'm not seeing anything that's missing just as I go through it. In terms of forested cover, you have 2 plans, one which you called the preliminary recording plat plan, and then a second plan, which is called the roadway and site development plan. Could you kind of describe the differences in those?
Well, the site development plan shows all the grading and more detail on the utilities, whereas the recording plat's a little more schematic, and some of that detail is not shown. If you're looking for wooded cover, if that's what you're alluding to,
That would be in the second.
it'd be better to look at the site development plan. There are tree lines shown on there, existing tree lines. I didn't do proposed tree lines, but the grading, the contours, where they tie into the existing contours, that would be the limit of disturbance. And that's where I came up with that 1.8 acres of disturbance. You just follow all the contours all the way around the project. So, and it's an entirely wooded parcel with exception of the driveway coming in, existing driveway.
Sorry, I didn't quite follow. What then on the preliminary roadway site development plan shows where trees will be removed?
So everywhere you see the reddish lines, the contours,
Yes.
so where they tie back into the gray dashed lines, which are the existing contours, that's the limit of disturbance, where those two touch each other. There's not a line there that reflects that. I'm just telling you that's where, if you were clearing for this project, you would go to that limit and then you'd grade to that limit. So everywhere where you see those contours, proposed contours.
I'm
Stand
still
up
having
and
a hard time seeing. Am I missing something?
So see these red contours?
Yeah, those contours,
Those
yes.
reflect proposed grading.
Yes.
If you follow where they touch the existing contours, all the way around, if you drew, that's the limit of disturbance. So everywhere inside of here is.
Okay, I guess I'm just looking at my screen. That red line that you showed going up on the screen from the road, keep going down the road, keep going all the way until you get to the back of those houses. Yep, there, I can't see that line.
Well, there's not a line that reflects the limit of disturbance. I'm saying where the contours touch the existing contours.
Yes.
Each place, if you were to connect the dots, imagine everything in your mind, that's the limit of disturbance. And so this is all cleared, and here's wooded.
Okay,
Makes
that's
sense?
wooded.
This is all wooded. And then beyond here, this remains, and there's some here that all remain.
I guess since one of the issues that came up was the amount of screening to adjacent properties, it would be good to know like how much screening will remain after this is all cleared and built. And maybe if it's a green, line like you show other forested areas, that would give us a sense, or if it's certain trees that are around the perimeter, that would help us know like, well, what will remain? Because on our site walkthrough there, it's all wooded.
It's all wooded.
So you don't know how much, it's like,
Yeah.
and those are tall trees, they're like 70-foot trees.
Yeah.
Or more perhaps, and you just see like, I don't know how this is going to look when this is cleared for development.
Yep.
And that was, my take was like, I don't know how much screening will remain here between this and the adjacent parcels.
Yeah, we can add some more information to the plan, locate some trees near where there's sensitive areas, near the Longs property. And so we could be able to show what stays and what goes, and yeah, we'd be happy to do that.
Okay. In terms of the wetland, the space that's shown on this drawing is the area in which you cannot build, and is there a buffer to that zone?
There's no buffer to it, and it's not that you can't build there, it's that if you build too much in there, you'd have to get a DEP permit.
Okay.
As I said, we don't need a DEP permit for wetland because we've stayed away as much as possible.
Right.
Frankly, those wetlands drove the layout of this project. And we tried to be as respectful as possible to them. And by the fact that we kept under the threshold that you don't even need a permit,
Yep.
which is 4,300 square feet.
Yep. And for similar reasons, a hydrogeologic assessment would also not be required because you're not disturbing the
wetland and.
the wetland and
more importantly, there's no.
subsurface wastewater.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And no drilled wells.
Do these buildings have full basements?
No.
Okay. They're on a crawl space?
Frost wall and slab, most
Okay, on
likely.
slab, okay.
Mhm.
Could you remind us of the number of peak vehicle trips generated on a daily basis and at peak hours?
25.
25. And since this wasn't a formal traffic study, what is that based on? How do you do
Based
that
on
calculation?
The ITE traffic manual. It's a reference book that correlates uses to peak traffic and average daily traffic. And so the ones for residential uses, single-family homes are well known. It's about one peak hour trip per unit.
Mhm.
And the daycare, I used a couple things. One was the number of students or daycare children.
Pupils, yeah.
And then also, based on the square footage that we had shown, we don't have it anymore, but correlated square footage to children and children to traffic. That's the way I did that.
Yep.
Based on the ITE manual.
I think there's a in the land use ordinance, there's two different ways that can be looked at, whether it's a school or a daycare. And I think daycare, can't remember which one counts staff, and the other one counts pupils.
Yeah,
I
for
just
parking, you
recall.
mean?
For parking.
Yeah. So anyways, I used the methods that a traffic engineer would use to generate those
Right,
numbers.
so traffic study light,
Yeah.
if you will.
Yeah, very light.
Okay. There are no high-value wildlife habitats in this?
No, I actually, in that tab 6,
Yep.
there's a beginning with habitat, which is put out by the Maine Inland Fisheries and Wildlife in the Natural Areas Program. It maps the habitats that are significant, and there is none in the vicinity.
Okay. Okay, there's no great pond here. There is a stream, and you've shown a setback, 75 feet.
From Harkness Brook.
Harkness Brook. And you're not asking for a variance or exception, according to your summary letter. Okay. I'm looking both at what your application says and also some of the comments that I heard from the public. Light pollution and noise pollution were two things that came up. How do you handle things
Well,
like light pollution and noise
I
pollution?
can't speak to the noise pollution. Obviously, there's a noise ordinance that would handle that. I mean, generally, single-family use isn't a noisy use. As far as light pollution, and I forgot to mention this in just our opening presentation, but there are some proposed streetlights, but there's only 3 of them proposed, and they will be cutoff fixtures, night sky compliant.
100% cutoff.
Yeah. So.
I think some.
I haven't shown any of the, like a cut sheet on that yet, but we can provide that.
Some of the language for, yeah, I think it would be
Yep.
useful if not required to have that.
Yep.
Some of the language for noise and light pollution, I think, is an enforcement issue. It applies throughout the town, to all parcels, not just development projects. But there's a little bit of funny language as to whether it's unnecessary or, can't remember what the words were in the ordinance. I'm trying to remember back now as to whether light is necessary or not at the property line. So I would interpret it as light coming from windows at night is necessary, like you need to have lights on in the house. But things like floodlights that are pointed outward toward the woods, towards neighboring properties would be forbidden.
Sure.
I don't know if anyone else has other concerns with light and perhaps noise.
I mean, like you said, a lot of this is enforcement stuff that we have in place, and the being able to shape lights now instead of just having the big sodium halide over the top of the garage that lights up the acre.
Right.
Is a much better choice now. So we can, they'll be able to provide lighting fixtures that minimize all that.
Yeah. I think we would like to see
I mean,
lighting cuts.
we've just been through, in the last year or so, all the lighting requirements, outside lighting requirements for commercial buildings. I presume we have the same sorts of things for residential areas in terms of power of the lights and direction of the lights and so forth. So I think we've probably got this under control.
I think it's more so the lights that are the roadway lights, not necessarily the lights that may be attached to the homes, like that's a separate matter. It's the roadway lights, whether they're dark sky compliant, they're fully downward.
Well, probably the condo ownership, the condo rules are going to control what kind of lighting people can have on the outside of their homes.
Yeah, and the town ordinance covers whether it's a nuisance or not.
Yeah, right.
Could we talk, I know I'm jumping around, can we talk about the roadway a bit? There were concerns coming up about runoff and the amount of ruts in the road during certain seasons, and whether this is going to contribute to more of that. How is the road changing?
Well, it'll be completely built to a modern road with the proper amounts of gravel. That road that's there now, it is very flat. We walked it today, and there isn't good drainage in a portion of it. This road will be built up higher than that, and there'll be, between that stone wall to the south and the road, it will form a ditch line and carry water to a proposed storm drain system that will shed it beyond the abutter's driveway down into an existing drainage course. So the road construction will alleviate the muddiness and the wetness that is experienced by the existing driveway, and the drainage proposed will handle the runoff.
Ryan, we don't have a town engineer, do we, that reviews roadway design? We just have in our ordinance the roadway design standards, right?
Correct. No, we do not have an engineer. The Public Works Director does look at it, and if they were concerned with it, I mean, they would make a comment, but also the planning board, if you see anything of concern, you can request a third-party engineer to review something.
Okay.
I would like to point out, although, I did name this plan a preliminary roadway and site development plan, but it's actually a driveway. It doesn't necessarily have to meet the roadway standards. It's not like a subdivision road you're gaining frontage from lots. Yes, we're in part of subdivision, but this is a driveway serving condo units.
So there's no point in the future that you anticipate that this will be a road that the town would then be receiving?
Never. It's on a condo lot. It'll always be maintained by the condo association. Yeah. So it's really, I should have named the plan a preliminary driveway plan, but yeah, so it doesn't necessarily have to meet the roadway standards. That being said, it's going to be well constructed, and it does meet some of the roadway standards.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
As it pertains to the gravel depths, et cetera, the amount of pavement, courses of pavement, the thickness of the pavement.
Yep.
It's like a private roadway.
Yep.
Standard.
Ryan, is it a distinction in your experience that when a subdivision is divided completely, where the road is a separate entity, that then becomes a town road. And in cases like this, it does not.
So, the town, within the town of Rockport, if the town's gonna take ownership of the road, like some communities have once you get it approved and it's built, then the town just takes it. We have a few steps that they have to go through. They have to go through the budget committee to get a recommendation, and then it's gotta go to a town vote. And we've got a municipal road acceptance ordinance right now that has further specifications.
Okay.
So, but in that standard, you'd have to get a write-off from our public works director that it does meet our standards for a road, and if further engineering or performance guarantee is required, then we go through those steps.
Okay. I mean, this has come up in the near past where roads that were not built to that standard or to a high standard were then became town roads, but were, substandard.
Right.
It doesn't seem like that's the case in this instance, but I think wherever we can avoid that, we'd like to.
Sure, yes.
Okay. Any other road questions?
Well, just in regards to that, so the condo bylaws, just like, I guess, somebody's roof, the condo's bylaws would sort of cover the maintenance and upkeep and repair of that road, right? Is it?
Correct.
In terms of, I'm sorry, Jeff, in terms of
Go ahead.
The runoff, you currently show at least 3 structures that are dealing with that on the plan, correct?
Correct. There's
Yeah.
3 little separate storm drain systems.
Okay, any other things in the Article 7 we want to review? Hearing none. Should we look at this through any other sections, Orion, or is for the preliminary plan,
Yeah,
it's sufficient to look at Article 7 alone?
Give me just a second.
So while he's looking for that, the drip edge detail that you mentioned that goes around each of the units, getting a better look at that piece, then that is, it will actually address the concerns around how wet that area can get during different parts of the springs. And so it's very interesting. I hadn't actually seen anybody build like that before, but it does make a ton of sense in this area, and it's
ground gutter.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, and I think I'm running into it now. I live out on the other side of 17 off of Mount Pleasant Drive, and I can't mow half my lawn right now because the water table's at the grass, right? Like, and I'm in a big open spot, a big lot, like I'll go through and across, like, but it's, other people's have septic systems and fields that kind of go through, but it's also the same spring that's at the top of the hill that most people go get to. So right now, this particular year, everything is wet right up to the surface, and the rain we're going to get in 2 days probably will indeed help that again.
Then you don't have to mow.
Yeah,
well,
that has an upside.
Exactly, just wade through the waist-deep grass out in the back and hope for the best. So yeah, I think, like as you go down through this piece and, we have the details that you have in all the different spots of, drainage, of having the curb, on one side and then having the ditch on the other, with the proper crowning and building the road the right depth. Conduit trench, cross-section looks great, like lighting pole base, like all of these pieces are done understanding the lot that you have to build with. And so I think it shows a considerable amount of attention to detail, knowing what it is that you're going to try to build and where you're trying to build it. So I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Jeff, go through Article 11.
11, general performance standards. Okay. One other thing I it's been addressed, but I just want to ask the board if, it's been addressed both from the pro and con side about density of units on the lot. It seems as though as a factual matter that the density is under what's allowed in the 906 zone. Do people have concerns with this on either side?
No. We have to face the real world, which has changed in the last 40 years. And we need at least 800 or 1,000 new housing units in the next couple of years just to replace the people that are going to retire, let alone new people that are going to general increase in population. We have to start doing this. LD 2003 was a wake-up call for all communities that density is the new black. We all have to go for it, and we simply have to figure out the best way to do this. I heard that a tenth of an acre for a house is not very much space. Well, actually, it's not so bad. I live on a quarter of an acre, and I could easily put another house or two in there. It would be smaller, but the surrounding area is another 3 acres, and this is where we need to be. We can no longer afford the kind of sprawl that has 3 acres per two-family or per single-family house. So I'm fine. I'm fine. I was glad to hear a good number of people coming to the fore and saying, this is the way we need to live if we're going to be a community that is not simply the wealthy with the workers coming in by bus from Bangor and Ports West. Okay.
Thanks, Jen. Any others? Okay, hearing none. Okay, so Article 11, performance standards. So it was declared the proposed subdivision will not result in undue air or water pollution, correct?
Yep.
There's sufficient water available for the foreseeable needs. It's, I think, from municipal water, and you have a letter to that effect?
We have a letter. I emailed it to Orion, and I'll get hard copies to you.
Okay, yeah, and I've uploaded it to the SharePoint.
Okay. Water quality, that's municipal water. The proposed subdivision will not cause an unreasonable burden on existing water supply. That's the same issue. Erosion or land's capacity to hold water. We've talked about the mitigation at the road and mitigation off the roofs. I think in general you've called for culverts under the road and into the Harkness Brook. So you're improving the land in all. 11.5, the subdivision will not cause unreasonable highway or public road congestion or unsafe conditions with respect to the use of the highways. We've talked about that that's a extant condition, not that this is contributing too heavily to it.
I will say in that section we did mention, and you guys did talk about doing, increasing the sight lines to the best of the ability with inside your property as you can, or even working with, neighbor properties if they can pull back theirs too in order to give you a better sight line. But like, as long as we work that piece into it, I think that was our biggest concern.
Going back to that 11.5, is there anyone on the board that feels that they would like to request a traffic study since it's come up?
Tell me what's involved in requesting, if I said I want a traffic study, what is it going to cost?
You're curious to know what it is, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I need to know.
Mike, could you speak to what a traffic study entails?
Yeah, it's going to cost $5,000 to $10,000, and they're going to send someone out there and count cars to tell us that, like we heard earlier, there's 900 to 1,000 peak hour trips in Route 1. They'll do the math on the ITE manual, just like I did, based on the uses, and come up with about 25 peak hour trips for the project. They may extend out to intersections and look get percentages, who turns left, who turns right, and generate a report. And the conclusion of the report is likely going to be that the level of service to Route 1 did not change. What were the
Who conducts this? You have to. You
traffic
hire a fir-
engineers.
You hire a firm
Yeah,
for that.
there's no one locally.
Mhm.
We'd have to go out of town, and it's costly.
How much confidence do you have that the result is as you say it is?
Very.
Does that satisfy your
I was just
curiosity?
curious, it's what we were talking about.
Yep. So I'm not hearing anyone feeling they want to request it.
I don't think a traffic study is going to be, that's not what's needed.
It's
What's
what you
needed are
alluded
some
to.
recommendations
The
around
concern,
that
I'm sorry.
Route 1, Route 90 intersection. I mean, I think it's designed very poorly myself. They redid it, and they've got the lines in the wrong places.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm not a traffic engineer.
Yeah, well, and that's a DOT thing, you know,
Yeah.
it's.
That's a bigger issue. Okay.
I think it'd be nice to do what you suggested.
I do- I
Try to do
think that'd
some
be good.
clearance,
Yeah.
you know.
It's just safer for
But
everyone.
the larger issue, and I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, go ahead, Peter.
The larger issue is what you alluded to.
Mm-hmm.
The wholesale problem there. I mean, I live on Route 1, so you don't have to convince me.
11.6, adequate sewage waste disposal. Now, did you say you had a letter saying that this would, from the sewer commissioner, even though there's no sewer there yet?
I put a letter in the application requesting sewer availability. Obviously, it would be wrapped up and caveated with this sewer extension.
Right.
But I'm not sure if that needs to come from DPW back to us, or I need to follow up with Orion and find out. Maybe your sewer engineer would have to look at it and tell us that they have the capacity, because it maybe has to do with pump stations and other things.
Yeah.
So I guess that's pending at this point.
Yeah, I mean, won't it be pending until there's actually a sewer line in
Well,
place?
I think there's, like, capacity, the whole system's capacity is separate from just extending a line to a pump station. you
Right.
know, And they could say, well, yeah, that sewer flow is gonna go to this pump station can handle it, you know, that's relevant.
Right.
So I think that's worthwhile hearing from the town sewer engineers.
Yep.
And I guess we just need to get that feedback back to us.
Yeah,
I've made the request.
So like I said, they've met with the sewer engineers, and the sewer engineer knows about a couple other projects happening in that area. So that extension line is being built in a way, and pump station
Yeah.
to handle that flow in that area. So
Jeff, I have
a
a
condition would be, you know, contingent on the letter, the permit from wastewater.
Jeff, I have a question.
Yep.
For Orion. Is 10 more homes gonna involve us in another argument with Camden over sewage space
I
and
don't think so.
processing of this waste?
I
Are we
don't
likely to end up back on the rack to be strung along one more time?
I don't think so. I know there's a new agreement that's signed, so
Yes.
we're in good standing right now.
And it allows us to build a house if we want to?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. 11.7, the subdivision will not cause an unreasonable burden on solid waste. I don't see why this would be impactful.
I mean, a 300 unit subdivision is a different story in terms
Yeah.
of where you get to, but
Right.
I can't imagine 10's gonna.
Well, will you have your own collection system? I assume.
I would think that the
Service.
customer, they would go to the transfer station.
They would,
just
they
like-
would each go to the transfer
Yeah.
station?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just yellow
Yeah.
bags.
Yep,
Yeah.
all right.
That's the way.
Unless they wanted
I'd say
to,
unless the condo association
Right,
voted
if
to
they
put a
want to have
dumpster at
the
the end.
condo
trash
can
pickup,
decide for
they
itself,
can
sure.
arrange for that, yeah, as part
Yeah,
of the
so-
condo.
but I don't remember, what was it, Philbrook, was it just wheelies where the people would store their waste in them? Where they store
They
it?
have their own, everybody has their own shed with their
Yeah.
garbage cans in them.
So it's not like there's a central point of collection?
No,
Okay.
they're all responsible for their own. In this, it's a condominium. It's different,
That-
they're individual, but.
That is a very good point, because where I live in a subdivision where a number of people have contracted with Casella or some other carrier, and so you have barrels full of overflowing trash out on the street. I go to the transfer station, but many of my neighbors do not. They put barrels out on the roadway and have these trucks come in. Is that going to be allowed if people wanted to contract to a private hauler?
Going to be in the condo rules.
It's part of our
Could be,
condo.
but what-
Yeah,
What's
so.
your feeling on that?
Well, certainly not to collect trash. We don't allow for, in our restrictions and covenants that run with all our properties, we don't allow for the accumulation of trash or the buildup. So, I mean, obviously it's written, and we expect folks to adhere to that, but people go to the transfer stations just like other homeowners, or they have pickup weekly, but I've driven through Philbrick and we have, you know, at Talbot or Firefly Field, they're responsible for their trash. I haven't had a problem with it.
Okay, 11.8 is that it will not have an undue adverse effect on scenic natural beauty of the area, aesthetics, historic sites, wildlife habitat identified by the Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, or the municipality, or rare and irreplaceable natural areas, or any public rights for physical or visual access to the shoreline. I don't think there are any identified significant wildlife habitats. There is no shoreline view. Scenic natural beauty of the areas and aesthetics are pretty subjective. Historic sites, it's woods. Is there anything considered there for preservation of natural beauty and aesthetics?
Well, to the extent that we can save some of these larger trees that are on site, we're going to do that, and we indicate that by tree protection. So, and you know, just like the wetlands played into or influenced the layout of this, these trees influenced the layout as well. We tried to even the type of homes are, you notice that they're narrow. That helped fit some of these homes in between some trees that we tried to save anyway. There's a lot of them out there, so we can't save them all. But
So the significant trees that show on the plan here,
Yeah.
and I think are repeated on the other plan, or no, sorry, they're shown here, are existing significant
Yes.
trees, 24-inch caliber.
Yes.
And some of them will be removed, obviously.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of logistics as to whether they can be kept through
Right.
construction.
Yeah.
Is your
And
sense
we-
that any of those are hazard trees that,
There's one that's, you might have seen it, there's a dead tree kind of
It's
in the
dead.
middle of the site, but
Yeah.
that we're gonna, I think the road's going through it, but
yeah,
it's off to the perimeter before you head to the east. There's some larger trees, and we've indicated them with a circle around them on the plan to be protected.
yeah, okay, those are the protected
And
ones.
so, and there's a detail on the detail sheet where you put fencing up around close to the drip line as you can, and it just keeps heavy equipment from backing over the roots.
Right.
Backing into the trunk. It's just a visual barrier, like, hey, that we want to keep this tree, so
Yep.
stay off it.
Yep.
Don't pile stuff on it, stack stuff on it, so
Yep.
that's just a measure of care,
Got
to be
it.
taken.
Okay. 11 point, where were we? 9? Proposed subdivision conforms to the duly adopted subdivision ordinance, comprehensive plan and land use ordinance of the town of Rockport. So that'll be in our final review. Financial and technical capacity, you included a letter from Camden National representing your ability to do the project. 1111 is if it's situated near a great pond or river, which it is not. 11-12, the subdivision will not.
Hey, Jeff,
Yeah,
if
go
you
ahead.
don't mind, since Jan was seated for this review, I'm gonna go collect him.
Oh,
He he opted out. He wanted to have his contact info.
okay. Quality of groundwater? Jen, you didn't miss anything. I just talked one issue and said that they have technical and financial capacity to complete the project. Quality of groundwater and quantity of groundwater, that the project will not affect adversely that. It's 11.12. That's, is that only provable through a hydrogeologic
Yeah,
assessment?
well, so I think what that standard is speaking to is especially when you have on-site wastewater disposal
Right.
and/or wells drawing from the groundwater or discharging, wastewater to the ground.
Okay.
And this has neither of those.
Yeah, and the activities, I mean, they're houses, so they're.
Yeah, no, right, so.
Okay. Is this in a flood-prone area?
It is not.
Directly? Okay. 11-14, freshwater wetlands. We talked about that. They're identified. The stream is identified on the plan. Stormwater management, we discussed, it's 11-16. 11-17. There's no shoreline here.
Right.
11-18. There's no Great Pond in proximity. 11-19. It doesn't cross a municipal boundary. And that's it. Orion, should we go through 12 or is that good?
Well, what is, 12 says something in the beginning, but they didn't submit anything for Article 12. But I'm sure everything meets to it. And what I mean by that is they didn't submit a letter with answers to each of the.
Right,
items in
right,
Article
right.
12.
What's Article 12?
Article
design
12
guidelines.
is design guidelines.
Okay.
The article is intended to provide an example of design guidelines, which if followed will result in meeting the appropriate performance standards from Article 11.
So I guess it's just more if
Yeah.
needed.
Okay, so we don't have to make any motions on any of this, right?
Hold on. There was. Where was it?
In the process, in the procedure.
You do have to approve the preliminary. I'm just reviewing something. I think you just approve it as a preliminary plan.
Okay.
Like the preliminary plan as proposed is approved and ready for the final.
Yeah, okay. We will state conditions.
Just
Go
a
ahead.
process question. Do you have to find the plan complete and/or have a public hearing for the preliminary? Does it say that? Does there need to be a public hearing for the preliminary plan or no?
You mean for the final?
No, for the preliminary.
That's
what-
what
You're
it
in it.
Oh,
was.
this is published as a public hearing? Okay, very good.
Yes, you're in it.
Didn't realize that. Thank you.
Okay, so, I mean, we should have a motion that the project meets or does not meet the preliminary plan requirements. If we motion to approve it, a preliminary plan, then we should also attach our concerns and conditions as to what we'd want to see in the final. I've got a few things listed. I'll just rattle through them. A traffic study we waived, so we don't feel like it needs that. Tree line and screening was something that's come up from a few people as concerns. So if there are ways through natural vegetation, also identifying more clearly what will remain. On other projects, we've actually asked for views, photographic views of what it is like now. That may be difficult to do. I don't know how you accomplish that, but it's helpful to see, like, here's a structure in the distance, and these trees will go away, but we'll provide this level of screening at this height. That's something we've seen before, so maybe that could be useful. But traffic and screening was the concern. I mean, sorry, tree line and screening. Sewer capacity, that's a contingent letter that you need to receive. But also the sewer line is a contingency.
Yeah.
I don't know if, I think that'll just be a future contingency as well, because I don't think we want to get to the point where that sewer line is in before we can approve anything. I don't know how others feel on that.
Right, I mean, I think we go through that piece and, you know, if for whatever reason they have a building ready before the sewer line is ready, it just wouldn't be issued a certificate of occupancy until it could discharge its waste.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
I mean,
but I don't think you have, like, with it being funded and voted into place, like, we can operate as if that project is.
Yeah, so similar in other
Right.
cases, like, they just didn't have the letter yet. It'd be the same thing of not having a sewer line. So once they get the letter, then they can go and apply for permits.
Right.
So they can do some stuff once this is approved conditionally, but they won't be able to do everything until that letter and the sewer line is there.
Right.
So,
yeah, I think, I mean, I'm sort of optimistic that the letter may come, but the sewer line won't prior to the final review. So they may even get the
Oh,
letter.
yeah, no,
But
no,
they won't
no.
get the sewer line.
right.
And then stormwater DEP permit, you
Yep.
said you're working on. And that's what I had for conditions. Did other people have concerns they wanted to file in here?
Informally, can't ask this, but it would be nice if Habitat and the contractors would make time with the abutters that have concerns to see what amelioration can happen in as good a way as we can, so that everybody is as happy as they're likely to be. Just give them some time to talk. Thank you.
Okay. Peter?
If we've discussed it, but the sight line, if that could be addressed. I mean, you may not be able to, I mean, whatever, you may be prohibited, but I guess you could do what, within your property.
Sure.
Yeah.
Tom, concerns?
I think we should make some mention of, during the preliminary hearing that we had, we talked about a possible daycare center, and we were quite clear that what we're talking about now does not include any daycare center plan. That, if anything, that would be some future concern. That's correct. So that, right now, as far as our table is concerned, that's off the table.
It's just sort of like,
Just the things on the screen.
Scott Coria?
Charlie Horse?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just a minute, I'll be okay. Oh, my God.
I'm sorry about that.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's a hypothetical. It's a hypothetical, and we really need to think of it. It can be anything that's an allowed use, really.
Right.
Okay, Sam, any?
Nothing that hasn't been covered already.
Okay. Okay, so can I get a motion to accept and approve the preliminary plan for a major subdivision with the conditions that it address the tree line and screening issue, the contingent on sewer capacity letter from the municipal sewer department, that it obtain a stormwater DEP permit, and any other issues that we brought up.
What about the sight line, the traffic sight line?
Oh, and that you address the traffic sight lines at the Route 1 entrance.
I think that's an important consideration.
So what I said is,
So moved.
thank you.
Seconded.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? 500. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you again.
Yeah.
All right, should we take a break?
Yes, please.
Okay. 8:15, taking a 5 to 7 minute break.
5 to 7 minutes?
To do what?
5 minute, what?
To do what?
Natural break.
Whatever,
Oh, natural.
whatever you have to do.
What is left?
Ordinance? Findings of fact and ordinance.
Findings of fact, right.
Good to go? Okay. It's 8:22, reconvening after a break. So the next item is findings of fact and conclusions of law for a site plan review of a parcel at 535 West Street. Parcel identified as tax map 25, lot 101 and 101-100, owned by this is Midcoast Rec Center. Wait, is that correct?
Hold on.
Did I write it incorrectly?
Where are you on?
Which findings of fact is this?
This is the site plan findings of fact draft master copy on the SharePoint site.
For what application?
242
Rockport
commercial.
Suites. Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
it was a
I got the
Rockport
wrong
Suites.
map and lot number. So this is for Rockport Suites, Commercial Street. I just had this on an old note.
To be known further going forward as the Birches at Rockport.
The Birches at Rockport, yes. I was present, but I recused myself from this application, so I'm going to allow Sam to conduct the review of the findings of facts for this, this deliberation that was done a month ago.
Yep, along with, help me out with exactly how I want to do it. But, so this is just for Tom, Peter, and myself, for the people who were there during this piece. Have you both got a chance to review this and gone through and mark it up to your heart's desire at this point?
And if three,
Go ahead.
if 3 people support it, that's enough for a quorum, that's enough for.
We need a majority of the people that were there.
I can interject here.
Yeah,
It's
sorry,
not
go
for a
ahead.
quorum on this issue. You already had the quorum on the issue. You just need a majority of yay votes of the people that were there.
Okay.
So there were 4, and so you need 3.
In terms of reviewing this, do you want me to go through by section, or do you just want me to ask if there's anything?
You can.
I can make a
approve it
motion.
any way you want.
I can make a motion to,
Well, I would hang on with, I know, Tom, you made some revisions inside of here. Did you want to talk about
I
any
would
of them
suggest we just
specific?
allow a minute per page to look over the revisions,
Sure.
just to make sure you're okay with, because we all read it, right? So just make sure that you're okay with the, I might have made some further revisions this morning. So what if we take it just by page, Sam?
Sure. All right, first page, I see no changes. Talks about Jeff's conflict of interest. It goes into the overview of the project. We went through, it comes to my section where I asked if the board had any clarifying questions after the original presentation. And now we get into where some of the changes are. And I'll say third paragraph down, we've got a couple down at the last sentence of the third paragraph. They just look like we're cleaning up grammatic and spelling things. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Paragraph 4, same. We're just moving words around to make sure that it reads better and cleaner.
Well, partly I replaced allowed with required. I think that's the correct thing. It says per the zone, they are allowed to have 2 spaces.
Oh, sorry, yeah, that's
It's
number
not-
5.
It's not allowed, it's required
Yep.
to have 2 spaces.
So that was the next one down that we're looking at, but yes, that is a substantive change, and I do believe required is not only what's in the ordinance, but what we verified with him when they asked if they could make an adjustment and have a waiver to that, and we
Yeah.
declined that for them.
Yeah.
So required indeed. Separating instead of to separate, that's paragraph 6, and another grammatical change there. Spelling change on the last bullet point of page 2. Page 3, nothing in the first, second, third paragraphs. Nope, sorry, third paragraph has a semicolon.
It's just a tense,
Yep.
tense,
Number
Person
5, same deal. We're moving from are to is on each of the next 2 sentences, or 2 paragraphs.
there's nothing substantive on page 4.
No substantive changes on page 4. Page 5.
No subs.
However, but this was the waiver request around the 42 parking spaces. Planning board was concerned with visitation and you have visitors to those living there. Parking requirement was reduced, fear that visitors would be parked on Route 1, which is a safety concern. Planning board indicated they had no concern with the material used for the parking spaces, and in this case to pave the parking lot, but it does not need to be paved in any way. In order to verify, they just have to have them marked out. Planning board found them not to be, surface water not to be an issue. Electricity needed to be spelled correctly.
Real quick, on this item.
Existing utilities item?
No, up a little bit about the parking and the paving.
Sir?
Instead of to pave, because I do agree with you on the materials, I'll just say, I'm just gonna take that out. Materials used for the parking lot.
You could just say instead of to pave for the parking lot.
That's exactly, yeah, and that'll be the
that's
change.
better.
Thank you, Orion. All right, exterior lighting. To be and not to be in about 6 different directions. All right, sections in. Nothing on page 6 substantive. Page 7. Finds the sections potentially applicable versus information pertaining to chapter 800. Yeah, that's for clarity's sake. Page 8. Planning board finds the following with respect to chapter 1000 for this application. I'm sorry, none of these are clear. Planning board finds the following information pertaining to chapter 1000 for this application, or the with respect. What are we trying to say with that?
Oh, I meant to put applicable. What do I use on the other ones? Yeah.
Finds the following what to be applicable?
Finds the following
The
information.
following to be applicable from chapter 1000?
Yeah, I meant to say, the planning board finds the following information applicable pertaining to chapter 1000 for this application.
All right, let's switch to that. All right. Sections, chapter, because applications are revision to a commercial development is not clear whether this chapter was applicable for review. Planning board reviewed the sections and found the application either met the requirements or were not applicable. Right, so we did go through it and we went across. And so final motion, no conditions. All right, do I have a motion to approve? No, what do we got?
Real quick, the name of the applicant and proposed project, right here, that I have got it bolded, I didn't add that in, I just remembered that, so I will change that, but that is the only thing I'll change.
Where is it?
It's right here.
On page.
On the final approval.
Under final motion, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
I didn't have that, sorry.
Oh. All right, so do I have a motion?
So Ryan, I'm sorry, you're saying you just have to make a minor edit? Is that what you're?
Yeah, I just need to edit, I bolded this as a note for me to come back to add that in once I finished it, and I didn't do it. So I just need to add the name of the applicant and proposed project and location, address, map, and lot, which is just what the agenda has.
And all of which are at the top of the findings of fact that we're going through. It just needs to be transferred down into the final paragraph, so.
So just what's in brackets will be filled in.
Right.
Correctly, yep.
Yep, good.
Okay. You good there?
Yeah.
Do we have a motion to accept the findings of facts as amended?
I will move.
We got one move. Second. Further discussion? All those in favor of approval? 3-0-0.
Who seconded?
Peter.
Peter, sorry.
302.
302.
We're here, we're just
Not talking to it?
not voting.
I'm sorry, 302 then.
Yeah.
Look at that, I did a thing. It was slightly less awkward than the first thing I did.
All right.
I'm getting better at it.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you for laughing to that, Jeff. That was great.
Thank you, Sam. All right, moving on, the next agenda item is...
Can I ask a question here?
No.
No.
That's other business.
Which
That's
agenda
number
item
8.
does it pertain?
The one that you just finished with.
Okay, then you gotta ask.
I want to know how many apartments they're making. One place it says 14, one place it says 7, one place it says 20 hotel rooms. What are they actually going to do here? Hello?
Hello?
Am I talking? Yes.
Were you there?
On the second page,
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, no, he wasn't.
of the current 14 rooms, they'll be
No, I
reduced
know.
down to 7-bedroom apartments. Above that, it says, there are 20 hotel rooms and 1 owner's apartment converting to 21 apartments. Then it says there are 14 hotel rooms and they're going to be reduced down to 7 one-bedroom apartments.
Yeah, so
What will it end up being, please?
16 total.
ultimately, it will go down. Right now, right at the beginning of the project, it will be 21, which is why they required 42 parking spots.
Okay.
All right. As they have more resources available to them, they will start knocking out walls between certain ones in order to make non-studio apartments, like
So
one-bedroom
7
apartments.
is the eventual goal.
I think they will reduce by 7 to down to 16.
Okay.
I think is or whatever it is. Like but ultimately there'll be 7 that are
But they have adequate
non-studio.
parking actually right now for 21, which they've assured us that isn't their goal. But they already have.
Right, and that was
more
the
than
piece.
parking.
I know the building intimately.
Right. So
The building will not handle 21 actual apartments.
No,
for real
and
people.
that was never, that's not
Can't
the
be.
stated goal.
Yeah,
right, they're going to make the adjustments to the lot.
right. But you don't know whether they're ending at 14 or at 7.
No, if you look at the bottom of page 2, there's some
That's
bullet
what it
points
tells you.
there. It
Yes.
says, complete the owner's unit and 6
Right, go down
studios.
to 7 one-bedroom apartments.
No, that's the third bullet.
Yes,
So you would have the owner's unit plus 6, that's 7, and then the remaining 14 rooms down to 7 one-bedroom apartments.
So ultimately,
There'll be
14
altogether.
total. Exactly.
Ah,
They're
thank you.
they're condensing
okay.
14 of them into
I
7.
couldn't make sense of it.
No, I understand.
Okay, great. Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Now you can get back to the next agenda.
Okay, thank you. So next agenda item is to look at our land use ordinance, specifically chapters 300 and 900. There was previously another item which has been removed from our agenda that was based on a letter from Miss Mary O'Rear regarding visual pollution, which she said she's seen corrected in the current land use ordinance.
Excellent.
So she's fine with it, which is great. And congratulated us for doing
Thank you, Orion.
So chapters 300 and 900. 900 specifically the tables, 917 and 918. So I don't know if anyone else had a chance. I made some comments in those tables, and I think in 900. And I think using that first, and because starting with 917, there were a number of words in that table which did not have definitions. So things such as golf courses, resort, parking facilities, solid waste facilities, like these don't have definitions in chapter 300. So it then relies on us to understand what these things are.
Right.
Because there's no defined thing. There's also certain things like residential single-family, residential multifamily is defined as dwelling in our definitions. And I think we understand they mean the same thing, but they might as well just have the same word. So insofar as the land use table goes, you can see the markups on the screen there. I just wrote in the word that is in the definition if it applies, such as recreation indoor is defined as indoor recreation facility. I know this is a use table, and a facility is the use, a facility is structure, but I note also that these are not really one-to-one things. It's buildings are referred to as uses throughout this ordinance, so it's not entirely consistent to begin with, so I didn't feel bad keeping it inconsistent. But I do want the words to agree with what's in the definitions. Go ahead, Sam.
I'd say the only thing on there that I would swap around through is the next, if you scroll down a little bit, next one down through. When it gets to places of worship and it has churches written next to it.
Where?
Right
Okay,
there.
there.
I mean, not all places of worship are called
Right.
churches. Again,
Agreed.
It's like trying to figure out how we line these things up, but that's what lines up in the, you're saying that churches is what's
I'm
in
happy with
300.
changing churches in the definition to places of worship.
Yes, please.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. But so we have it right in the table. What we don't have is the correct definition for it
Yeah.
further up.
This is written by the people who came on the Mayflower channel.
Did you know them personally?
I might be related to some of them, but I don't know them.
That last name.
Yeah, so I'm not suggesting that these are that should be like ship chandlery, and I think you should know something about ship chandleries. That's not a term I've heard very often.
Oh, yeah, that's
a chandlery.
You have obviously
Chandler
not
is a
read.
candle making place.
Is it?
No, it's not.
It's not?
You never read Moby Dick?
I have. But
Gotta be
it's
everywhere in there.
It feels archaic.
It is archaic.
It is
Of course
archaic.
it's archaic.
So is vitulers.
So is places of worship. You know?
Vittlers
That's
or
pretty
whatever.
archaic.
Vittles.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm more of the school of use the simpler word that more people understand. So I'm happy with boat storage shipyard sales, but then that should go in the definition instead of ship chandlery.
Just as long as they agree, I don't care what they say.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Well, you do care that it's not churches and it's places of worship, but
Yeah.
in
And-
some cases we care. In other cases, like
You are-
just
okay.
pick one and go with it.
Yes.
Well, as I say, and the other say boat storage has nothing to do with ship chandlery. So like it's a.
So do you know what chandlery is?
Like it's basically the guys that have, it's the shop that has all the fit out stuff. So like Hamilton Marine. So
Okay.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that's ship
yeah.
chandlery. Right?
Okay.
Like,
It's a parts.
Originally, in medieval times, it referred to a room or office where candles and wax were kept.
oh, good night. But not with
Right?
ships.
Again, you're just simply trusting the internet.
So the Hamilton Marine just that only has candles.
Yeah.
No, he's thinking candlery, but that's a different. Yes. Like. Yes.
Okay.
English is stupid.
We do have a candlery in town, by the way.
Yeah, I know, and now he doesn't even call it that.
Okay, so I mean, I don't know. Can we start at the beginning, 917, and just go down them?
We all
Golf
wanna go
courses. I put in a definition in 300. I can read it since we've got that on the screen right now. I got this definition from some other town, and it's a tract of land for playing golf, improved with trees, greens, fairways, and hazards, which may include clubhouses and shelters. The term excludes miniature golf courses.
There is a basic there's a basic idea in language that you do not use a word in the definition of that word.
Yeah.
You
well,
can't you can't call it golf in the definition of golf. It's circular.
But it's not. We're not defining golf. We're defining golf course.
A place in which you play golf.
A basketball
that.
court.
I will
is a-
give you that one.
Is a place
Oh, no,
where
no,
you play
no,
a game
no,
with an
I bet
orange
you're right.
ball. Like,
No, you're
come
right.
on.
You have to chase a little white ball.
Yes.
Okay.
We're not going to define golf, but we're going to define golf course.
Okay.
Golf course, a place where good walk is spoiled.
Merriam-Webster can identify golf. Yes.
Exactly.
So this is the fun part of the evening, right?
Yeah. Well, I'd like to think this is fairly fast and easy.
Yeah. Okay, so golf courses, I define. Golf range, I defined as, okay, this is from another town. A facility designed for the practice of golf, typically featuring a series of designated areas where individuals can hit golf balls for practice. This may include driving ranges, putting greens, and associated amenities such as a clubhouse, restrooms, and equipment rental sales. Golf ranges are intended for recreational use and may be open to the public or restricted to members. Okay, are
Fine with me.
both of those okay? I didn't hear anything.
I love it.
Okay. And then going down, recreation indoor and recreation outdoor, they're already defined as indoor recreation facility, and the other one's defined as outdoor recreation. Do we want them to both be facility or neither to be facility? Change the definition to recreation indoor instead? I don't know. Which is the, you know, the one you would think if you were looking down this list, if you were actually doing that, indoor or outdoor?
I'm still
recreation?
struggling over commercial parking facility where it says the term facility shall not include a parking garage. Why not?
Yeah, I don't,
Why
to
not?
be honest, I don't know exactly what that means. I put that in there, but I don't quite know what it means.
Hmm.
So I'm willing to
I thought
work
I
through
thought
that.
you were just fine, right
Well,
up,
I mean,
right up
in-
until
in-
that sentence.
Yeah.
In theory, a facility is a structure. So you could have an outdoor business that's an area that doesn't necessarily involve a structure. So, I mean, when you use the term facility, historically, you're thinking of an actual,
Unless I walk into
Right.
a restaurant and say, can I use your facility? Then I mean the toilet. So, yeah.
Commercial parking toilet? No. Hold on, that, you're jumping ahead though, Jamie.
Jeff, what's the rationale behind the pursuit of this definition? For example, I mean, you know, one of them was quite lengthy. What are you trying, I don't know what you're trying to achieve.
Of this definition?
Just, what are you trying to achieve?
Defining them?
Yes.
I think they should all be defined.
And so your argument tonight is that some are and some...
Some are not, and some are
Okay.
inconsistently, like, you look to see what does, for instance, residential multifamily 20, that's not defined at all. So I don't, that's a whole category, and it's allowed in some places, not in others, but like, what the heck is it? So I want definitions for all these things. Going back to recreation indoor, recreation outdoor, do you think that's the proper term for this? Or should we go with what's defined already as indoor recreation facility and outdoor recreation?
Second one.
Second one, so keep indoor recreation facility and outdoor recreation.
Yep.
Okay,
Why,
so
for resort, why does it say C motel or hotel? Neither of those is a
you're
resort.
jumping around again. We're
Well,
still
I don't know
on
where you are.
recreation. We're in 917. It's
Oh,
on
I
the
thought it was
screen there.
300. No wonder there's a problem.
917A.
Okay, wait a minute, let me get to the right chapter.
Yes, we're looking at the definitions, or I'm looking at the definitions as well, so you're seeing that, but
917.
we're on 917.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can look at that screen right there in front of you, Jan. Not the screen
I
right
can't
there
see
in front
that,
of
I
you.
can't,
That
not, cannot see that at all.
Okay. It's just a matter of making it consistent there. Sam has said he prefers to keep what's in the definitions, which is written in red. So we'd have to change what's in the land use table. To
But
agree with
then,
that.
but then the words on our land use table would match what we had definitions for.
I see, okay.
Yes. Yeah? Is that okay?
I like
No?
that change.
It's okay? Peter doesn't care.
Horticultural is not the word that you want to go with campgrounds, golf courses, and golf range.
What?
You want a horticultural business, or you want?
I know, that's.
Definitions.
That's
I-
the-
Right, I've said that these are
Yeah.
inconsistent.
They
Some
are.
of them say facility, some of them don't, some of them are
Right.
saying a use, some of them are saying a building, like, it's inconsistent, I'm not trying to correct all that.
Okay.
But we just trying to make sure everything that's written there has a definition.
Right, because we've had applications in the past where it's like, well, I don't know which this thing is. It could be that, it could be that,
Okay.
and they're not defined, so it's like, I don't know. And so I'd like to get anything that can be defined in here just smoothed through. Just to improve this little step, since we're actually, addressing other parts of it.
And it all has to go into, any changes to land use has to go through ballot, right?
Right.
So here we are.
Yeah, and we're doing other ones hopefully too, so.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's keep indoor recreation facility and outdoor recreation. So those two there should change that are in 917.
Yep.
Okay.
Resort, so I added in the definitions just C, motel, and hotel, because resort itself is not defined on its own. It's in motel, hotel and motel it's defined. So I just say, look up there.
Okay, so, but in that set place, that it is defined
It
as
is
something
defined.
else.
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Also, I wrote here, for what it's worth, YMCA is not allowed in 901, so that I don't know how that's possible. Like, how could we not have an indoor recreation facility allowed in 901 when there is one? And it was built, like, you know, within our lifetimes.
Well,
Does that mean we need to make a change to permitted?
Doesn't mean that. It could be grandfathered, but like, how did that happen? It
Well, I mean,
just
if we're-
seems funny to me. It's before any of our, it's before
Oh, for
Orion's
sure.
time. It's not before Jeff's time.
Do we
it's also
want to
bef-
make it
it's
permitted, a
before the
permitted
Y.
use in 901?
Yeah.
What did you say? We should. Okay,
Because if they want to do any expansions or whatever,
right. It's not an allowed use.
kind of go,
Right.
we get a hiccup.
Yeah.
So and on top of changing it to indoor recreation facility on the table, we also want to put a P.
CU.
Or a conditional?
Yeah.
All right, conditional use.
what zone is the bowling alley in?
907?
7.
Okay. And there it's a conditional use.
Yeah, same thing.
Okay, going down to residential, these all begin with the word residential, but in the definitions, they say dwelling.
Yeah.
So which do we prefer, dwelling or residential?
Like dwelling.
Residential's a use, dwelling is a building, so
Well, and, yeah, we use dwelling on everything. And
everything
it's-
else is dwelling.
Yeah. Multifamily dwellings, additional dwelling units, whatever you
Okay,
want.
can we change those all to dwelling then? Sound good? Okay, and then we just have to tackle, what does the 20 mean?
Well, but you say agricultural, you don't say farm.
Right. In this case, it's more of like everywhere else in the ordinance, it says dwelling, so.
Yeah.
This is the one place where it's
Okay.
residential. so
Well,
just
then it
make
should say,
dwelling.
residential is better, but dwelling is what we need to use.
Exactly.
Yes.
If we were doing this whole cloth, we would have done it differently, but,
But we're not, yes.
No.
No, change it to dwelling.
okay. And Orion reminded me, because I was here, but I don't recall, what is multifamily 20?
Well, that's the thing. We came up with a definition. I don't know why it's not in here. So I know that was there, so I'll have to look into why that didn't carry through.
Do you remember
But-
what it was?
Yeah, it's, yeah, that is concerning. But, so we got concerned with larger multifamily establishments. So if you are 20 units or more, then you're categorized differently on the use table. And if you're below that, then, I forget what it is.
You mean in one building?
Give me a second. Yeah, so you can see the difference between residential multifamily and the 20. The difference is you're not permitted in 903 or 913, but it's 20 units or whatever or
Yeah.
more is residential 20.
20
Meaning-
dwelling units.
What does
But you're
congregate,
talking about like in a building, not like a 20-unit subdivision. Or are you?
I think it's a building. But I gotta find the definition. I know we came up with a definition, and I know it was on the ballot, and I know it got voted on. So
Okay.
I don't know why I didn't incorporate it, because I know I incorporated it, so somewhere in the merger.
It's in the printing of it then.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just in the printing. All right.
can I
Okay.
ask, what is congregate
It's
housing?
group home. It's like special
Um,
needs.
Different than, therefore, a rooming house?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's for people with,
Specific needs?
understand.
mental
No, I
handicaps.
know, yeah, okay.
Or just
Okay.
Or, yeah.
health
So it's people
issues
that live
or-
together as opposed to separately in the same building?
Right.
Okay.
It's defined in the definitions as people that require like medical or nursing or something, assistance. Residential dormitories, just scrap the word residential because dormitories is what's defined. Is that okay?
Sounds good.
All right. Medical clinics, I did not prepare a definition for that. There isn't one, and I don't really know what it.
There's a couple more at the top of that page. when you
Oh,
go-
sorry. Agricultural product processing. So agriculture or farming is in rural agricultural recreation, so I don't know how that's different in commercial. Is that like WIFE? Hey, what?
No.
I would say that's not-
Agricultural product processing is like, grinding apples and making cider, or
Milking cows.
going through, something like that, where
Milking
you're,
cows, yeah.
where you're actually like,
But it's not agricultural.
no, yeah, it's, yeah, I mean, honestly.
Well, it's not
tofu's
agricultural
actually pretty
because
freaking
it's not
close,
growing
but-
things, but it's processing agricultural products, like
Yeah.
milking a cow. Or perhaps grinding grain.
So agriculture or farming is what's defined, and it says, cultivation of soil, production of crops, or raising of livestock, including but not limited to the production, keeping, or maintenance for sale or lease of plants or animals, forages and sod crops, grains and seed crops, dairy animals and dairy products, poultry and poultry products, livestock, fruits and vegetables, ornamental and greenhouse products. Agriculture does not include forest management and timber harvesting activities. So would you find agricultural product processing
I would
in that
define,
definition?
I think it's in that definition.
Okay,
Right,
so
so you
that's-
just change the word to agriculture then.
Yes.
But that's in agricultural, and it has different uses, different zones where it's an allowed use.
Huh.
So it's a conditional use in 908, product processing,
As
but
it-
agricultural is permitted and conditional in 901, 2, and 3.
But not a 908, is that what you're saying?
No, it's permitted in 908, so
Oh, it's conditional on the others.
it's conditional in if it's product processing.
And the processing of it, so
And
it's,
is
it's,
it
it's value,
possible-
it's
Well, then-
value added, like, processing of the products from the farm. So like, so if, like I said, the reason why it's conditional use in the only place where agriculture is permitted is because sometimes it's loud and noisy and smelly, and sometimes it isn't, right? Like if you had a beef farm, let's say,
Loud, noisy, and smelly.
well, to a degree, but like we have, like Aldermere's there.
But yes,
But if you wanted to start tanning the skins that came off of them, like putting in a tanning operation there, which we know is
Or
not
slaughterhouse.
not spectacular, right? Like
Abattoir.
processing facilities, right? Like the things to be able to do those things right there as well, right? Like,
yeah.
but when you get to like Avena, they grow the plant, they walk it inside, they put it into a bottle, like
Yeah.
no big deal.
Well, what about Iowa?
See, but that's a little bit different. That's a manufacturing facility.
Yeah.
They're bringing in their
I know, but
feedstock.
they are in fact processing an agricultural product.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they do. Soybeans in one side, tofu out the other.
Yeah.
Right.
But they're
And they
manu-
could not do that in the zone they're in.
Well-
If that's what they're defined as. They
If
can't.
if that's what you define it as, but it's like the fact that it is the way it's set up inside this table, where it's conditional use in the spot where it's permitted, but is not available even as conditionally in places where agriculture is conditionally spotted.
Do we in fact need to parse this down so completely, or can we live with it as it is?
Well, you can live with it as it is
can
until
live with
somebody
it.
comes in with a
Right.
thing that challenges it, and then we're
Then
a-
maybe we
then we're
ought
on the
to,
back foot.
then maybe we ought to rethink all of this. That is, what do we want to, what are the things that we want to have happen in this zone? We like growing plants. We like raising beef there. But we don't want to make hides there, so we don't want that kind of thing. We don't want, so maybe things like this table, we really need to figure out some better definitions. Art galleries are easy. Agricultural product processing is not so easy.
No.
for sure.
I
And
mean,
think that's why
agriculture or farming really does to me sound like a farm, and that's it. I mean, even though it says but not limited to, it says cultivation of soil, crops, raising of livestock, and then it goes on to like other stuff. But that's a farm. That's not the stuff that's
it's not a commercial farm.
around the perimeter. It's not, well, it's not the tanning of hides, like you said.
Right, the value added stuff,
Right.
right, where you really.
Or killing chickens.
Right.
Well,
Well, that's the raising of
Yeah, that-
livestock. I
People
guess.
slaughter their own chickens. Out pretty-
cultivation of soil.
Oh,
Could
it
I-
says
could I-
poultry and poultry products, so
There you go.
But, I mean, the tofu, like, I don't know, it does not fit in there. It's not,
Well, to me, it's exactly what
Agricultural
agricultural
farming.
product processing means. Is to means taking something that's agricultural, whether it's a plant or an animal, and processing it into a final product.
Okay. Right.
you
But
try
if
to
you,
take-
but if you try to take it as that simple a view, the seaweed processing facility in Rockland is a agricultural product processing facility.
I agree.
Right, but that is also a manufacturing facility, and that is much more of what it should be compared to somebody who is.
Because of the nature of the process, involves big machines?
No, because the feedstock is all brought in on trucks. They don't grow any of it there. It's not a farm that is taking stuff from the farm and putting it into the hopper. Like Jeff doesn't grow any of his soybeans, right? They are all brought in on a truck.
Yeah.
And if they were plastic pellets, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't change. He's still manufacturing from one end to the other.
Okay, I'll go along with that.
And so I think like the difference between agricultural product processing conditionally used in 908 versus what, you know, somebody making tofu on the other piece is the fact that the feedstock is coming from that lot.
Well, then maybe if you bring in raw materials and you ship out a product, it should be manufacturing.
Yep.
No matter what.
Yes.
Whether it's cars or tofu.
100%. And I think, so this is where, if we really want to get to this, I think honestly, the definition of agricultural product processing
Is manufacturing.
is manufacturing, but with your base materials being produced on site.
On site.
No, it's not always the case. What about Purdue chickens? They get chickens shipped in from all different suppliers, and then they,
That's, and that's a manufacturing facility, right?
yeah.
Right.
And the
What-
same thing for fish processing. I mean, and they're noisome industries. I mean,
Well,
they smell
for
bad.
sure, and I'm saying what
Nasty
this,
stuff coming out.
what this is saying is when it's talking about agricultural product processing, it's talking about like different from manufacturing. It's talking about doing that processing on the farm where it's produced. We've got to get out of here.
You guys are in charge of land use. Take it from that perspective and I think you'll solve the issue. If the stuff comes in, you're not using the land to create it.
There it is.
I'll go back to my.
You want a job?
No,
could-
but
you
that's.
You got an empty chair.
Well, and that's what I was trying to get. He said it a hell of a lot faster than I
Yeah.
did, but like,
Okay.
you're using the land to produce it versus bringing it
Okay.
in. Oh my God, this is gonna be fast, right?
we don't have to solve
All
everything
of
here.
them.
No,
I'll
but-
just
but-
point it out.
No, but if we think that way, we could make headway on a table like this.
Right,
Well, I think that actually.
Maybe I'll
solves
think
what
of
it
try
says.
and do that,
right.
just for fun.
Okay, so,
Veterinary clinic
well,
hospital.
I'll just
yes.
also point out, just so we don't have to do it again, agricultural product processing is also listed in E, under industrial. So, like, it does agree with where it's allowed, but in that it's in there twice, I'm not quite sure. It's fine, whatever.
I get you.
Shall we go with veterinary clinic hospital? It's in the definitions,
Love it.
okay? Moving down, it's defined as landscaping, comma, heavy in the definitions,
Yep.
okay? It's different from landscaping business, so that's defined as well separately.
Does the, yeah, okay.
Medical clinics, I mean, do we know what a medical clinic is? Different from, say, a hospital?
We need
It's
to
not the
define it.
same.
We need to define it.
We should
We-
define
we
it,
should
right?
Create a definition for medical, yeah, because it's like infusion clinics and
Yep.
things like that that are separate from.
The easiest thing to do is to check and see if there's a different state license.
Right. I mean, I think that does refer to license, like a hospital.
It's got, they're all licensed facilities,
Yeah.
and the license probably says one thing as another, so the state must have a definition.
Yeah, and I don't want to wing that one. I think
Is that
that's
a
what.
dentist's office too?
I don't know.
Should be.
Medical, oh, sure, it's absolutely.
All right, so we need a definition for medical clinics that's real.
It should
and
then, we should
passes the
make sure it
lawyer.
lines up with how it's being used. I mean, if it's a dentist's office, we should make sure that dentist offices are not in those other districts.
Yeah. No, so this morning I had a meeting with a potential business to come in. couldn't find a use for them. Because there's not a definition for a use that's in this table.
Matches that.
It's like,
Okay.
all right, I don't know what to do, but I think we can do some finagling, which, I mean, it works. They just need to change a couple of tweaks and then they got a use and they can go. So clear definitions for everything that's on this table, we gotta do.
Okay.
I'll start looking up some of this stuff too.
Commercial parking facilities, I put a definition in there, but I don't quite, as Jan pointed out, I don't quite agree with it. So I think it means a lot, not necessarily an outside lot. It could just be a parking garage or a parking lot that is almost solely used just for parking. So I don't.
Maybe we just say land or facility used solely for parking.
So the definition here, I just amended it. A lot or portion of a lot used for the parking of motor vehicles where that is the primary use.
Doesn't say whether, that it can't be a facility. That's fine then.
Yeah, I just got rid of that. That's not smart.
Yeah.
Okay.
Professional offices are defined.
It's defined as professional offices. So is that better?
We're just gonna swap that off.
Okay.
Yep. We have a definition for the facilities. We need to change the definition of churches to
Call it places of worship.
and then use the same definition,
Yep.
right?
Solid waste facility, I found a definition for it, and I listed it as in my doc. A building, yard, field, or other land area used to temporarily or permanently store discarded household or commercial waste. I don't know if that's enough, like, I think it needs more of like, this is a commercial thing, like, this is not just like a trash pile in your backyard. So it needs a little bit more, but I didn't have time to flesh it out.
That's fine. Do you want to put a conditional use for that in 903 while we're at it, or? Sorry.
Storage building, I didn't get around to defining it, and it's permitted only in 907. What's the note on that?
Storage
Do you have a definition for research facility, other than a facility where research is done?
We do have a definition for it.
Yep.
If it's not highlighted, then there's a definition.
Note 7.
Yeah.
Storage buildings do not include mini storage units.
So do we need to define mini storage unit as well?
I think mini storage is defined.
So we just didn't define storage unit, mini storage unit, okay, mini storage. Storage building.
On the topic of mini storage, there's, I've had I don't know how many conversations with potential people wanting to put in mini storage. I'm not saying yay one way or another, but there is a way to do it to where it's not like the outdoor drive up mini storage. It can be all enclosed in a building. It can be climate controlled. It can be a way that it keeps it within a building. No one knows it exists. And I think it would be acceptable to the community, but I know there are a few people that are interested in diversifying their portfolio on their site by adding such a use. It'd be a way to add additional value as well to the community. So something to think about. I know the community hasn't been interested in the drive-up mini storage units, but inside one building.
Wentworth Family Grocers. Up on-
Yeah, they added a bunch.
There are several of them, and I have noticed that the two that I have occasion to have been in, both have mini storage facilities behind them. It's a combination business. We allow grocery stores in a lot of zones. We don't allow mini storage in any of those zones. What do we do with Wentworth wants to come here?
I mean, the Wentworth and Searsport just got them put in. Like, that store's been there for most of my lifetime, but just put storage in the last 2-3 years.
I understand, but they just put a new one up in, I can't think of the name of the town, and they built both the store and the mini storage at the same time. The one in Lincolnville has storage units in the back.
Well, I guess to answer your question, Jan, what do we do if they want to come and do both? Is that
Yeah,
it's
they seem
important
to
to think
they
of
seem
these
to
as
only want to do both now.
ways you can use land. So
Okay.
it's not simply that like a development is one use. It could be multiple uses.
Yes.
So it could be, you know, a resort with residential on it, or it could be the supermarket. with
But
the storage
only
units.
if the zoning allows both.
Right, you have to have both.
Right,
So
and his
right now,
point
it's not
is-
allowed anywhere.
Yes.
So they can't do that.
Okay, well, right.
And his point is, should we be thinking about making an adjustment to where that is allowed?
Well, that's a much more big and political consideration, right? I mean, that's not simply defining it differently, that's like allowing mini storage units in
Absolutely.
town. That's another discussion I don't think we're gonna solve tonight.
No.
Because Jeff's got a boat to catch.
Yes.
No, and no, I wasn't intending on that to be solved tonight. It was just more of a bringing to your attention.
And then just want to push a little bit more into 918 and make sure we're all on the same page with the.
I think we're good for 917.
Yep.
918, I didn't have any changes to A.
Nope.
Does anyone have any changes to A? I mean, we sort of we went through that.
I mean,
parts of it.
Oh, 918.
I think I would
918 A.
always fight to reduce the size of the rural lots, but I don't think I'm going to fight that particular battle this evening.
Right.
And the next page down.
I mean, in all of these things that I was putting in was to not make substantive changes.
Yeah,
It
it's
was
just
really
to
just
match
to
it.
clean it up.
Yep. No, we did the big ones before. This is just trying to clear the second page that didn't match the first one.
And so in B, first on the right, 913, I was asking if we should have columns for 913 and 916, since those are zones. And we put those columns in elsewhere where there's nothing in it.
Mhm.
So shouldn't we just have those columns? I know it might require reformatting this or whatever, but 913 needs to be there because
Right.
Actually,
because
has
LD 2003 said any zone, well, it has, you know, housing, dwelling units, so are allowed, so we should put in what the requirements are. And so for the top row in table B, I changed 4 of the 40,000s to 20,000, as we discussed before, just to bring them down to the state requirement, because, and limited to those, because the single-family dwelling with public sewer was either at that or under it. So for instance, you don't bring down 908 to 20,000 because single-family with public sewer is 130,000. Like, clearly, we want those lots to be bigger.
Yep.
I was just seeing, why would we penalize or require a larger lot than the state required or that public sewer would require? It's like, why are they bigger? It's just, it seemed, again, inconsistent. And then there was one under public, multifamily public sewer 904, that's 20,000, and I said, just go with what the same is for single family, 4,000. So I think, Sam, you and I agreed on these. This is based on your recommendations.
No, it's actually more aggressive than even what I had, and I am for it. And
Yeah.
I like the idea of adding the columns. Obviously, 913 needs to be there, but might as well have 916 as well.
Yeah.
It says question mark there under 913. Is it not defined, or?
It should match.
So right now, it's 0 in 913, single-family public dwelling, single-family dwelling with public sewer is 0 in table A. So minimum lot size of public sewer 913 is 0. Like, you can have a 1 square foot lot and you can build a house on it. I don't know if that's intended, but I think we just wanted to reduce it to, you know, the bare
It
minimum.
was taking everything away.
Right.
See what you can do.
So I put 0 in there for single-family dwelling with public sewer because you need to have a number. And if it's anything greater than 0, then you're imposing more restriction on it. And I didn't want to change it substantively.
Got it.
And then so multifamily with public sewer, is it still 0? I don't know. Or do we start saying it should be like a certain number? I have a feeling that's the reason that 913 is not a column in here, is because we didn't have an answer on that.
I would say it's still 0.
Still 0?
Because in 913, I mean, the lots are really small.
Yeah.
And they've got to meet building code anyway.
Right.
So,
Habitable.
yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of lot size, you can go up a few stories. You can put a few units in it. Go for it.
Yep.
We shouldn't hamstring them with this.
Right. Okay, I'm in agreement. Any dissenting voices? Again, 916 could have a column here. It would have nothing in it, but it would be consistent.
Yep.
And then the second page is a little bit more complicated, or the next page, part of table B. So these are for other uses. 913 allows these uses, but there's nothing in the table. So it's complicated because the last three are motels, hotels, inns, or resorts. But then the first of those three rows contains other things. I don't mean to change any of this, it's difficult if you were one of those things. So if you're without or with sewer, you look at the bottom two, and the first one is with and without sewer. So 902, there's question marks there because it's an allowed use, so we have to put a number there. Similarly for 913 column, those are allowed uses where there are question marks, so we really should have a number there.
Yeah.
Again, 913 is the dense in-town, basically just Central Street.
Yeah.
But if someone comes to us and says they want to put a hotel in 913, which has happened, shouldn't we have a number there?
We should.
Yeah. Sorry, Orion, you said we have this meeting. Do we have through next meeting to get all this stuff finalized?
Yeah. So what I'd like to do, and if there's more to discuss, we can discuss it. I'd like to do is take this, put it on some Word documents with red line, and then at the next meeting, you can do formal recommendations.
Okay.
Can you handle some of the definitions that are undefined
Yes.
here too?
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got some work. I want to keep you busy at your desk.
Oh, yeah. I know.
All right. Yeah, while I'm happy to look at and provide recommendations for sizes for 913 and all those things like that.
It requires some gears moving.
Yeah, at this point, and I
Yeah.
think we are.
Yep.
Are we in a spot where I can motion to
No, we've got one more thing.
Oh, that's right.
Comprehensive plan.
What are we talking
I
about on the
love it.
comprehensive plan?
One more
Well,
thing.
it's accepted. It's done. It's great. We
So
got
we're
it.
using it.
So yeah, we're using it.
So read it
It's
and
online.
pay attention.
Read it. Pay attention. What I'd like to start incorporating in stuff like, especially when we get to waiver requests, like let's start tying it to the comp plan. And when we get to, at some point, our ordinance needs to then reflect. Fortunately, we kind of were ahead of the game with LD 2003. So I don't think we have to do a ton of work on it, but we do need to do some tweaking, and we need to put some thought processes, probably have some workshops about current land use ordinance and what the future is. I think that's totally within the wheelhouse of this crew here.
Yeah.
So we just need to kind of map it out and kind of gear up what we're going to accomplish and when we're going to get it done.
So
by.
what assignment might you give us in our leisure time to look at in the comp plan?
Future use, future land use.
Future
Like,
land
for
use.
sure, look at that, and then housing, for sure. I can send you an email with some bullet points.
Okay.
That would be
So,
great.
remember.
Thank you.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm super excited the comp plan's done. We're gonna be working pretty hard to incorporate that so that we don't have 20 years go by and not a lot got done. So,
Yep.
yeah, that's it.
All right.
Cool.
Now I can make a motion to adjourn?
Ken. You move to adjourn?
Yeah.
Okay. Seconded?
Yeah.
All those in favor? 5-0, okay. Thank you, and it is 9:16.